All right, well, we're back again. A little late. It happens. The world's a little late. We're close to the time. Kind of like how Kamala, she was close to the issues when she went down to the border. But anyway,
Well, one place the border.
well, yeah, I mean, it is a border between things. You
She
know,
visited the border of the entrance to the CBP office,
yeah, you
a
know.
thousand miles away from any of the problems.
Well, you've got to have your priorities. I mean, she was really busy. She had to get on to California. She didn't really have time to stick around, and yeah, she was only there to just make sure that she did get to stop in before Donald showed up today. So you gotta
Hmm.
you gotta have your priorities. And speaking of priorities, like I was saying, we should start out with by paying our respects to a cornerstone of the internet, a big fat F out there for Flash, which we have unfortunately lost.
So Flash was already deprecated for like all of last year, but the end of life date was January 1st, and Chromium via Google and thus Electrum as well officially ended support for Flash on the same date. Well, it's the end of year. However, they didn't get around to actually removing it for Chromium until just recently. The last update to Chromium, it's gone. There's no option to put it back in. You can't go and redo anything. It's completely gone, and it will remove it from your system when you update your browser. Um, Microsoft is following suit. Windows 10 update for July should remove Flash from your system. I think that continued support service for Windows 7 probably is going to include the same. But I haven't been able to. I haven't gone to the trouble of verifying that because I was dealing with this as a personal problem that I was complaining about just before we went on. Um, but yeah, so end of life means there is no way to get Flash back on your system from Adobe. You'd have to go find someone who had the actual files downloaded already to be able to run them.
Now, that
You
said,
basically have to
there are
yeah, you have to
repositories of
break
these things, but you're gonna have to break
you have to
stuff to
break
make
a
it
lot
work.
of things.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have to break your OS, your browser, and any security software you might be running. Uh, and so that means any website right now that is running Flash, including all those legacy websites that ran on Flash, they're all broken right now, or at least the parts of the web page that run Flash. So like eBaum's World, I'm guessing they've updated HTML5 by now, but say you went back and looked at an Internet Archive version of the page
well,
to
I can
get a
just about
Flash game.
guarantee you that there are some things on Newgrounds, which, by the way, is still a thing. But there's going to be
Sure,
some
yeah.
stuff on Newgrounds that's just not going to make it into this modern era of the internet.
I mean, I have projects I worked on in like high school that were written in Flash for a graphic design course. Like that's none of that's ever going to be able to run again on modern technology, which is fine in some respects because Flash was a security nightmare.
Yeah, but
But
on the
it
other
was a
hand, for archival purposes and
yeah.
preserving history, there's a lot that could really be lost here.
So archive.org's got its work cut out for it. I'm sure
Yeah,
the Wayback Machine is going to have some interesting conversions it's going to have to do to change the action script and shit like that to HTML5 compliant. Now, like Silverlight was Microsoft's answer way back in the day, and it functioned, but it didn't function well. And there was Lightwave, which was an open source attempt, and that was god awful. So it really wasn't a good competitor for Flash until HTML5, and HTML5 based compliant browsers have much better security than Flash ever did. So I can see the reason why they bumped up um, to do something, but like it's still it is gone. So oh well. Oh, Flash dies and Steve shows up. How's it going?
What's up?
howdy ho.
That was interesting. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Can you
I
hear
can't.
us?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yes, I can.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
good.
it started with the primary problem being my remote that turns on the TV that is my desktop monitor was missing. And then I found that. and then I found that there was no video signal to the monitor anyways. Then I troubleshot that, and then my headset wouldn't turn on. So that just randomly started working. I'm like, all right.
So what you're saying is reality has given you a couple of warnings.
No, I'm it's I'm just cheap, and until such time as it's dead,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep on rocking it.
That's fair.
It's the righteous way.
You know, that does work with things like hairstyles and clothing styles, because eventually all that shit comes back as new anyway.
Yeah, it kind of does.
That is true. That is true.
That being said, actually, I fit back into my Jinkos from high school, and those are probably going to be pretty hot soon.
I'm waiting for shit like the top hat and the tweed coat to come back, because I think that'll be hilarious.
Oh,
they already tried that with bowlers and trilbies, which looks fucking stupid, but whatever.
Hipster's gonna hipster.
A bowler's okay. A trilby is for women.
A trilby looks good on the right person. Like if you're
the right person being a woman,
or if say you're genuinely an artist and you've got the slender build, like if you got the you got like a nice jacket and a sharp shirt on. What's that now?
What is a trilby?
What everyone calls fedora. Yeah.
Yeah, the fedora that's a little bit shorter with the shorter brim that comes to the smaller point.
Yeah. A real fedora, by the way, is the Indiana Jones hat.
Or the classic private eye deal.
Yeah.
Got it.
But a trilby is the smaller one. Like it's the feminine one, to be honest here. But like it's the smaller one that's also worn by say a French artist. You'll probably see them. It's a bad similarity, but it's somewhere between the Robin Hood hat and a fedora.
Yeah,
that's
a pretty accurate representation.
It's not rounded off like a bowler. It's got that kind of point to it on the front.
Yeah, they're a bit more angular.
Friggin' A. I'm just slowly recapturing my desk after taxes. It was a bad place to be after taxes.
I see the
There's
tax
some PTSD. I get triggered every time I have to pay taxes.
Well, that's understandable. Nobody likes being stolen from.
That's and I don't have a safe space from the government.
No.
Hey, you do. The government makes it for you. They feed you there, they clothe you there, they house you there, and all against your will.
Yeah, but it's like, when you're living directly under the eye of the man, that just kind of takes away some of the magic,
I mean,
you could go all Uncle Ted and just go, live in the woods, but the man's still going to come and say hi to you every now and then.
That place is also still the best place to experience communism, honestly, minus the death part. Although if you're naughty enough, you can actually get the death part just after decades.
I'm actually a really big fan of bringing back the Homestead Act. Really big fan of the idea. All these people who think that white people wrong them and want reparations, just give them a patch of land in the middle of nowhere, and they can show how superior all of their building abilities are to us poor colonizers, and go, hey,
give me a break.
Build something on their own.
The first thing you're doing is going down to Home Depot and hiring some Mexicans who weren't supposed to be here.
If I was given 40 acres and a mule, oh no. Especially if they turn around and they said, hey, you're going to be able to live there tax-free, that would actually be tempting. Well, I get paid a lot more.
I should clarify,
but it would be tempting.
Also, Mexicans who aren't supposed to be here would probably not be the majority of that group. It's going to be more Central Americans.
Yeah.
Unfortunate as it is.
Yeah, because Mexico actually kind of has its shit together. Not entirely, but they're working on it.
A lot of the people who show up here from Mexico are day workers who are here legally.
Oh yeah. They go back home at the end of the day, or they come over for part of a season or something.
Yeah, they come over for 4 months.
That's where our actual Mexican, quote unquote, migrant problem is seasonal, temporary, or day workers. Now, that's specifically the Mexican issue of that, and that's not talking about Central America or anything further south.
That's not the illegal immigration at all. And
yeah, no, it's not.
Honestly,
because those people basically live on the other side of the border. Hell, there's a lot of people that live on the other side of the border that are citizens because it's just cheap.
The saddest part about all that is that these are the same people that Democrats will come out and say snide shit like, who do you expect to do it, and then insert low-paying job here. As if that's not demeaning to people who are from some geographic location, that they're relegated to some dismissal towards whatever jobs that was
always the fun part is when they use the, oh yeah, they're just doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do. So got it. You're relegating them to terrible options.
And don't forget when payday comes around.
Aspirational. It's such an aspirational speech to give to somebody who's, say, naturalized as an American citizen from Mexico. It's like, congratulations, you can be a maid.
Well, to be fair, I suspect.
My fruit, servant. Jesus
I mean, I guess one of the things that I've noticed is with the whole entire perpetuation of BLM, right? Is that, and this is the point that I'm getting to is I'll go with the point first. The point is that Democrats only cater to a group as long as it's useful for them to cater to it.
Yeah.
So if we start talking about something like the BLM stuff, right? What they realized is black people are a voting bloc and vote on black issues. And I think the biggest takeaway that we as conservatives should observe, or libertarians, or the whole mishmash, is the lessons the Democrats learned from the 2016 election was the bad one. And that was that women don't vote as a voting bloc. Women do not function.
They immediately turned around and castigated white women as the reason Trump won. After every other reason that Hillary decided to trot out.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So Obama, they ran it as he's going to be a black president, right? And they ran Hillary as she's going to be a woman president. And my wife was distinctly commenting numerous times about how pissed off she was that somehow the Democrats expected her to vote for somebody solely because that individual has a vagina.
Well, I mean,
right?
Well, we do have to consider how inclusive it is. I mean, we had the one that was running as the woman president. We've got now the one to represent all the mentally deficient people out there that are having, issues like Alzheimer's and dementia.
Based on his Putin conversation, he's also the first woman president, I guess.
There you go. Yeah.
I think at the end of the day,
showed
right?
Up with a vagina that day.
I think that first off, the Dems' plan. The reason we have Biden is because the Dems' plan to run Kamala or Kamala, or whatever she says her name is, that failed miserably and openly, and nobody liked her. Nobody in her party liked her. Nobody in the progressives liked her.
Oh, I'd say that's one of the reasons why we haven't heard of a tragic accident involving Joe Biden and a set of stairs.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
everybody hates that bitch. I mean, she's probably one of. She is. Imagine this. Imagine being more hateable than Hillary Clinton.
Oh, I don't think that's the case. I don't know.
Well,
I reserve
the thing about it is,
in my heart for Hillary Clinton.
Shouldn't have enough years to get that kind of body count yet.
Oh
yeah,
no. Wait, what kind of body count are we talking about?
Oh, Arkansas.
You know what I mean.
Oh
anyway.
I'm not going there. Not yet.
So how are we all doing for the week? I haven't checked in on you boys in a little while.
Feeling better than Vince Foster.
Who's that?
Don't ask. But he had information that could lead to the arrest of someone. Anyway,
Excellent.
he had a really bad accident where he suicided himself there, in the back of the head with the bullets twice, because when you want to make sure you're gone and the first bullet, might not be enough, you reach back there and you do it again. Because that's
you got to make sure you get both hemispheres of the brain.
Yeah, you do.
If you're gonna do it right, you got to make sure. If you're gonna do it, you got to do it right. You got to make sure you have a good grouping, so that the two bullets are right next to each other.
Otherwise, we end up with a Phineas Gage situation.
Right.
Yeah,
Now, out of curiosity, did my voice cut out at any point right there? Because my mic just reminded me that it's on.
Right there, no, but you have been cutting out a little bit throughout the call.
You've been kind of in and out.
Not terribly,
Yeah.
but a little.
Yeah. It's starting to lose. I'm gonna get triggered into spending money, and I hate spending money.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I've got a Blue Yeti that I'm using now as a backup to the really cool deck I got, and they are freaking amazing.
Oh no, I'm gonna go for an Arctis Pro. I had an Arctis 7 before, and I probably still have it somewhere in the house.
Talk about the
And
headset, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, so he's not talking about a mic.
Yeah, no, not just the mic. I do the whole thing. But my Arctis 7 was absolutely amazing. I loved every moment of it. And then, like, the frame snapped, and I couldn't get it to stay put. And right now, I'm really wishing that I just had the fortitude to break out the duct tape and make it functional again.
Well, you could always
Or, like,
3D print a
what's the
fancy
material?
new frame.
Well, that may also be another option, right? That may be another option in the future.
What's the material made out of? You know?
I
Just
don't know. I don't know.
If it's,
I don't know. I
if
don't know
it's
what
just
the frame
ABS
is.
plastic, you can put some acetone between the two and stick them together.
That's so the next one I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the Pro series, which is
Okay.
Bluetooth and whatever its proprietary connection is, and it's got swappable batteries, so I never have to worry about the charging component of the charging wireless headset.
That's pretty handy. I won't lie.
Yeah, it's way more expensive, but apparently it's like the best headset money can buy in some ways outside of, a multi-$1,000 Bose.
Yeah, like a Sennheiser or some kind of studio piece, right?
Yeah, but it never, and I repeat, never goes on sale.
The
I gotta
really
tell
good
you,
stuff doesn't.
Frustrating.
Along those same lines, I'm still really glad that Android-based phones still have a fucking headphone jack.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, but most of them.
My most recent Samsung does not.
Well, I backed a
Samsung
cool
is a piece of
Kickstarter,
shit.
so I'll have a new one coming myself that actually does have one that's not been deprecated or anything. I'm really pleased. It's I think it's that one I linked you guys to a while ago.
Yeah, you
it
linked
wrapped
it
up.
before.
Yeah, that wrapped up.
Oh, cool.
Did really well.
Good.
And on the, I'll tell you off air. I don't want to take the chance that the wrong person finds out, because there could be something cool. Two of them were ordered, and a person that might be getting one of them might listen, and I don't want to take a chance. Because I mean, getting a James Bond phone is a pretty dope Christmas gift, right?
It can be. It can be.
Yeah. Oh, so we've got like loads and loads and loads that we can go over, but why don't we just start with what you just linked, actually, from today? Since, of course, actually, I'll start with something that we probably all already knew, because I can wrap it up really, really quick. So, over the last week, the quote-unquote UFO report came out. It's worth.
And that was a big dud.
Oh, yeah. It's...
Let me guess. We don't know what they are, so we reported it.
Exactly
Pretty
that.
much.
As a matter of fact, you've
this
summarized
shit the day
it.
that shit was coming
Well,
out.
I mean, who can't call that? That's they do
Right.
these things periodically,
It's called
and they
an
always come out the
unidentified
exact
flying
same thing.
object.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
I'm not-
they weren't.
It's
they didn't
concerning. We
even
don't
go so
know.
far as to put out any ideas or recommendations. Just like, yeah, well, fuck it, we don't know what they are, so maybe
beyond
we
the
should look
purview.
into that.
Yep.
Exactly. It's beyond the purview to speculate. They just the point is to raise the concern and then to report on it, and then now I guess was to report on what was reported previously by agency personnel.
Yeah. Now,
Well, every single time they do this, they come in and they're all super excited that maybe this time they'll talk about the aliens, assuming that aliens are inherently here. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, my honest opinion as an engineer and as a scientist is that there probably are advanced galactic civilizations out there within our galaxy, solely on the laws of probability, right?
The
400
Drake
billion
equation has
suns.
got some parameters to it.
Yeah, but unfortunately you don't know like 3 of them, so
Well,
the thing
But
is
they have bounds. We have some rough estimates that basically say there's a non-zero chance.
yeah. And at the end of the day, the Drake equation, for those that don't know, the things that aren't known about it is
It's laughably fucked, but it's good.
I mean, it's how we build equations, though, right?
Right.
We take a
It's
fucking swag,
yeah.
we throw all of the parameters that we know are in there, and then all the parameters that we suspect might be there. We multiply them all together, especially for probability. That's how probability is always done, right? And the big unknowns for the Drake equation are, one, what's the probability? What's the timeline required for an intelligent civilization or an intelligent species to arise? What's the timeline to technically get to like scientific advancement, and what's the survival duration of that species? And the first stars, like the first stars the galaxy ever produced, would have been what, a few million years after the Big Bang. They would have gone supernova and seeded the appropriate elements where they needed to be.
Close enough, I think.
Yeah, it's only about a million years for the megastars that existed.
Well, there's if you ever look at in astronomy, you can look it up later. There's something called the black hole gap, or basically the missing black holes, and it's from these primordial stars. That there's a certain size range that's just absent. That indicates how big the stars early on were, and they were big stars that burned out really quickly. So, like you said, a couple million years.
Yep. I mean, and fusion reactions go. The greater the pressure forcing the elements, the faster the reaction happens ultimately, which is one of the problems that we have with fusion reactors, is trying to create that pressure to induce the reaction. But realistically, it would have been by the time 10 million years had happened, most of the first earliest stars would have come and gone. There would be enough material to start seeding the planets. It would take, say, a couple billion years to coalesce the first planets around in the first galaxy. And then, take the Earth's timeline as a basis. It takes another, couple billion years before you get to intelligent life. Once the planets coalesced.
I mean, in short, what we can say is that it's a reasonable assumption that if we're not unique in the universe, which is a pretty good probability, then life has at least had a chance to by our own timeline, come to our level of capacity to do things.
Right.
By well before the Earth was ever formed.
Right.
Numerous times over.
They've had billions of years to do.
Well, not only that, actually. I mean, we can look at some of the apocryphal stuff or some of the Vedas and things, and if we take those with any kind of veracity, I mean, there was once another civilization here. But all we have to prove that is one bridge underwater in Sri Lanka that matches a description from the Vedas.
Well, yes, but ancient astronaut theorists believe
all kinds of shit. That's what they believe.
The History Channel taught me that alien civilizations are real, and they truly guided us through many, many years. I mean, the thing is that, and this is when all the people are coming in and talking about the aliens. The problems that I have with this whole like aliens studying a pre-industrial civilization or pre-galactic civilization is like, how many of us, honestly, how many human beings in America, right? We'll take ourselves as like the Prime Directive Federation types, right? Are actually legitimately interested in civilizations that have not had prior contact with human beings and are willing to fund an expedition that is so obscured that they still don't know that there are other human beings outside of their tribe. Like, that's not a thing that we are willing to do.
No.
Why would any other?
Here's why. Hold on.
No, that's classic human, actually.
Have you seen Green Inferno? Because I would damn well love to send every SJW on a mission to find the nearest cannibals and civilize them.
Well, I mean, I got it,
if
right?
If they make it back, then they're not going to be that way anymore.
But those are all attempts to do like actual overt contact, right? We don't go through the effort of observing these people without them knowing that we're observing them, right?
Well,
like
a good example is the Peruvian tribe they used in that movie. Like they'd had limited contact before. They did that movie as part of a cultural exchange. memory serves.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was actually a tribe that they worked with. That wasn't just a bunch of actors.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but I remember I remember it getting catching a bit of
see
hell, and all the right people saying it was bad. So I may.
Oh God, it was funny. Like, it just in the context within which it was criticized. Just you gotta watch it, and just you can easily see the different stereotypes of the people that are there, and which ones seem, for instance, more like a games journalist, or more like, say, a Weasley shit.
Well, I mean, even outside of that, though, going back to the original discussion, right? We really don't put forth that effort, and we don't really fund it. You do have these weird people who go out there, it does happen, but it's not people who go through the effort of using super advanced technology to abduct them and return them without them knowing they were there to study them, right? That just doesn't happen. And when we start talking about the energy requirements for galactic transport, right? Which is, I think it's probably feasible. I think that there's probably some. Again, I have my electromagnetic universe theory hypothesis, which would actually make a lot of sci-fi tech work really well. But I suspect that those who have better understandings of physics have much more advanced energy generation, which would be stuff on the order of antimatter propulsion. And that stuff would be feasible, but it's still, fuel's never going to be cheap, right? We're never going to be in the point where
producing much antimatter would be such a bitch.
Right, right. They're probably, by the time you get to the point where they're producing sufficient antimatter to power a spaceship that can travel across the galaxy, right, and contain it, right, without simultaneously destroying the ship, the energy source, and the entire galaxy behind it. I mean, that's the big problem with the Alcubierre drive.
Firework.
Right. So they
it'll be gone though.
For folks to understand, there's the Alcubierre was a big Star Trek fan, and so he legitimately developed from Einstein's equations the Alcubierre drive, which is a warp drive. Right? It is theoretically possible with a variety of different forms of high energy physics, but the one inescapable
he came up with the Alcubierre metric and solved the Einstein field equations.
Yes.
For the shape of the space that would be required, so that you can form a warp bubble. He didn't come up with a warp drive per se.
Okay, all right, whatever.
That's just so that people don't go out there trying to find out why we aren't going places.
Why we aren't? Yeah, okay. So that's
we don't have the physical engine yet. We just don't
that
have
is
the
to
things
say,
that are required for it.
The numbers support that such a thing can be.
If you're gonna play semantics, little fuck games with me, I'll play semantic fuck games with you. It is not a warp drive. Will never be your primary form of propulsion. It will actually just create a field upon which your primary drive will travel you along at whatever speed you would normally travel at, compressing the space in front of you and expanding it out the back. But there is one fundamental problem that comes with the Alcubierre equation.
Well,
the energy requirements are enormous.
Here's the fun thing, though. The energy requirements were at first exotic, as in negative mass requirements, negative energy.
Yep.
Which, by the way, just so people understand, go back to your basic high school kinetics. It's the energy of a moving object is 1/2 the mass times the velocity squared. You don't get a negative number from that unless you have a negative mass or an imaginary velocity. So, that was a big problem for the Alcubierre field equation solutions.
That is to say, technically impossible.
Well, no.
Based on that state.
It is.
And time.
It is No, it's not even technically impossible that state and time. We have predictions of forms of matter that we haven't discovered yet, that we believe could exist, and the original equations were solved using that. However, they
predicted that the mass density required would have to be negative in some places, effectively. But what we found later. More recent, say, investigations back into this, just out of idle curiosity by some physicists, there are solutions that allow you to use regular old mass.
Yes.
There are some density distributions that do work for positive energy, but as Steve was just saying here, the energy requirements are on the scale of the visible universe.
Yeah. So it's technically possible, and I have no doubt that we would find a way like that. And that's our first crack at it, right? When we get around to optimizing this, and this is going. I'm gonna throw back to where we were in early, I guess mid 1800s to current mid 1800s to early 1900s, right? Back then, the engineers of the time very firmly believed that it was physically impossible to make a ship move across the ocean using coal as a resource due to the energy requirements of coal. They built better ships.
That, yeah.
They found different they didn't find different physics, because I don't want to but they found different ways to orient their engine. They made efficiency improvements, they made turbine improvements, all of which...
Keep in mind that the paddle wheel was the main propeller back then. And with a paddle wheel, they're definitely right.
Yes. So they were absolutely convinced that it would literally take an infinite amount of coal in order to propel a ship. So when we turn around and we say, oh my God, the energy requirements are immense, right? If we ever got to the point where we actually did have reliable stores of antimatter and could use it when we needed to use it, right? I have no doubt in my mind that we would find different orientations that would make it possible. Now, if you want to know a really interesting tidbit, if you go take a look at Vulcan ship designs from Star Trek, they are identical to the proposed Alcubierre ship design for what would have to work. It is stunningly accurate. I don't necessarily believe in aliens, but I can't remember what the guy who did Star Trek, what his name was. I keep on thinking L. Ron Hubbard, and I know it's not him.
Oh, Gene Roddenberry, yes.
Yeah, if Gene Roddenberry, I know that we're all skeptical, but Gene Roddenberry could very well have been an alien, because those Vulcan ships look exactly like it. And the Vulcans were supposed to be one of the first, warp-capable species in the galaxy, right? So if we get to the point where the Alcubierre drive works, right, it would still take an immense amount of energy to get it up and running, I'm going back to my original point. And then on top of that, you have the slight problem of every single time you depart a solar system, the collapse of the spatial field around your vessel will induce a supernova level explosion every time in the wake of the traveling vehicle.
You have to,
right?
And keep in mind, if you're consuming energy on the scale of the visible universe and you stop, that's a big locomotive to slow down.
Right. It is.
And keep in mind also that the fabric of space-time is not only capable of being stretched, but it takes two black holes ramming into each other from light years away for us to detect it here.
Yes. Super mega massive holes.
That
right?
stops
this is not
next to you. That's
not
a big problem.
These aren't little black holes either. These are supermassive black holes.
20 and 30 solar masses. They were
right.
20 and 30 solar. This is not small, mind you.
No. Right. So these aren't the tiny roving ones that we're worried about crashing into planet Earth. These are two. I believe it was actually two actual galaxies and their center black holes colliding with one another, producing the waves that we detected.
And then there was another one which was between two neutron stars not that long ago. I think that was middle of last year.
Yeah.
Somewhere near this, it was what the heck was it? It's 2.5 solar masses is roughly the minimum you can go for a black hole after it's formed. And it's not that much above. Basically, by the time you get to 3 solar masses or thereabouts, you have a black hole. So a neutron star is being just before a black hole happens.
Yep.
There's basically about 5 suns worth of mass and energy flying together at that point.
Right.
And we were able to detect that from over here.
Yep.
Oh, that sounds horrifying.
I mean, but yeah, so it takes a shitload of energy, It takes very advanced material and ship designs. You'd have to have all of these, when we start talking like Star Trek, right? Star Trek gets around a lot of the hazards in space with force field technology, which is basically we're pretty close to actually doing that.
Actually, I think we're there right now, but the energy requirements are just ridiculous.
The only feasible way we know how to do it is to generate a field of plasma.
Yeah.
And stretching a field of plasma around an object is very difficult. It's easy to stretch a field of plasma between 2 points, right? We can do that. We can make a series of points and create a field of plasma between 2 lines. But stretching a field of plasma around a three-dimensional object is very hard.
Well, here's the kicker. Stretching a field of plasma around a three-dimensional object and not cooking it with the plasma is the problem. You can make a sphere of plasma. You can make a sphere of plasma.
It's making a skin of plasma.
It's a real bitch to hollow it out.
Right, and even then, that's not going to do very much against the primary hazard that you would have traveling at these velocities in space, which would be solid physical objects that happen to be in your path. Those things are going to hit the plasma, and some of it will burn off. But you basically need super high energy plasma physics. Not all of it's going to do it, and that's going to create a giant chunk of a hole in your ship.
If you're a locomotive traveling across the universe with the mass energy of the universe powering you, and you hit a speck of dust, it's just like so people don't quite get like the hazard of low orbit space debris is like dust is scary in space because it will go through things.
Yes.
It's traveling at, say 20,000 miles per hour, somewhere in that range, by the time, depending on the how elliptical the orbits are around the planet.
It's not just dust. There's a ton of charged particles, and if you have going back to plasma physics, you're generating more charged particles that you're driving through if you're trying to shield your ship. So by the time you're done, you basically need Star Trek levels of technology advancement, and we are centuries away from that, right? Like, if we were to dedicate if we were to say, NASA, stop studying feminist glaciology and go figure out how to build a fucking starship, we could probably get there in 50 to 75 years if we were really hardcore about it, right? And that was like, we stopped funding Social Security, we decided everything was going to go there, we turned it into a world project, we could probably get there.
I'm down.
Right?
Let's do it.
But it is many, many years off. And by the way, the same
Force.
True. And the other thing that you have to get to is by the time you get up there, it's probably faster, cheaper, and easier to build wormhole devices. And Stargate is probably a more accurate rendition of how intergalactic travel would occur, because the same equations that allow for the Alcubierre drive allow for Stargates.
Yeah, but you got to take those gates out there somehow.
Yeah, that's the problem with Stargates.
Yeah, you got to drop them off.
Which, by the way, is why almost every single major sci-fi franchise, when they actually physically have to travel through space, they will have either a primary means or they'll invent something known as hyperspace or subspace. And in hyperspace or subspace, it allows them to not have to deal with any of the physics of actual space.
Things like Lost in Space.
Right. It's kind of like shunting
Where
you
they
into
totally
an
fucked
alternate
up.
universe where all the physics work in your favor all the time.
Yeah, kind of.
You happen to get the lottery winning ticket every weekend.
Right. Yes, exactly. The hyperdrive technology.
Actually,
that
I
powers
will
most
say one
starships
thing from my
put you in that
understanding of it. Star Wars, of all things, actually did address that in their way that space travel worked. You had to... I can't remember. It was some word. Astrogate or something.
No, they did the same kind of thing. They did hyperspace, which whenever somebody uses the term hyperspace, it's supposed to be higher dimensional order space, right? So
Or
you consider
space, or subspace,
slip
which
space.
are supposed to be like flat space, kind of.
right, exactly.
You
So
take one of the dimensions away.
Well, no, actually, in
Right.
that case, they were supposed to have to calculate straight lines that did not intersect with solid objects. Now, I'm sure later on in the movies they could have given a fuck less because obviously they completely threw away their own meta and their own lore. But up until then, I should say.
I'm pretty sure that they had a hyperdrive.
They did,
right?
but they couldn't go through solid objects.
Oh no, they could not go.
I
through
figured that part
solid
out
objects,
at least.
right? Yeah,
Yeah. Baby steps, right?
but calculating that there would be no solid objects between you and Alpha Centauri, 7 some odd light years away, would be
not gonna happen.
Yeah, you're gonna
for one
you're
thing,
gonna hit
you don't
that.
have any observational proof of where objects are between here
Right.
and there.
And by the way, Star Wars did it without shields, which is one of the many reasons why I don't believe Star Wars is as accurate as Star Trek in terms of futuristic space travel.
Yeah, if
One
you're
of the
moving
many,
around
many
like that in
reasons.
space
Well,
with that
it's
kind of
not
frequency,
exactly about space travel. Much as they have it in the movie, it's not really about for movies. It's not really about space travel.
I know it is.
Whereas Star Trek is almost entirely about it, and just incidentally happens to have a plot.
Star Wars is what happens when your D&D group gets bored. Yes, it was space wizards and space swords and space knights in armor, right? Like, I'm fully aware that Star Wars is not about space.
Yeah,
it's
I
about
mean, if
medieval
we're
warfare
completely
in
honest
space.
here, I mean, plasma swords are very cool. They're incredibly cool.
Call of Knights, for God's sake.
But a plasma sword is really not the most feasible weapon unless you're in an actual medieval setting.
Well, let's put it like this. The kind of thing that generates the kind of heat and focused energy that a laser sword would have would not be capable of doing anything that they talk about for Jedi training, where like it can only like mildly burn you or something, or like stun you or any of that shit.
Yeah, there's no stunning happening with that.
No.
And for that matter, the swords would go through each other. So either you have villains that are very, very nice to the Jedi, or
well, so I think the premise of the lightsaber, right, was that it was a field of confined plasma. So if you had somehow had some magical way of using your little fucking solar or your little satellite dish shaped object there, right, which is nothing more than a metal focusing lens, and you could hone the magnetic field sufficiently strong to contain plasma in that tight of a stream, I could easily see the magnetic field of sword A clashing with the magnetic field of sword B.
Yeah, I get that part, but like here's the thing: either they pass through each other either with or without sufficient force, they would pass through each other, or they would bounce off each other. There's no friction, so anytime you see two of them, like pushing swords against each other, looking through them with mean faces.
I would expect them to function like two magnets facing poles.
The more accurate
friction against him, against one against the other.
If we want to talk about physics of lightsaber-esque devices, let's be honest, Spaceballs was more accurate than Star Wars, right? When your Schwartz wraps around somebody else's Schwartz and they just get tangled, that is a much more likely outcome.
Well, what I found equally interesting was that it took a foot against the other to separate that issue. Hold on a second. Let me just put this here and.
That was a classic, though. Yeah. That was a classic. And
Mel Blanc is a legend.
And from what I understand, there have been efforts to convince him to revisit it, and he has refused. And if that is true,
revisit
then,
Spaceballs?
Yes. Like in the modern era. Now, up until 2000, I would totally be okay with it. Post 2000, now,
so
absolutely
what is worse is people don't get why there is no movie called The History of the World Part 2. And they keep talking to me like, where's Part 2? Where's... You live in it, shithead.
But yeah, going back to cool space sci-fi stuff. And the original thread. We dove deep into the physics of artificial sci-fi universes, which is actually, and I hate to go on another tangent. Sci-fi, that's one of the reasons I like sci-fi, is when they actually explain the physics, and bad sci-fi is when they don't explain the physics of how their stuff works. That just as a pet peeve for me. But going back to our original tangent, which was ancient civilizations and UFOs and involvement, when you start talking about the energy requirements and the technology required and all of this level of advancement, you're going to tell me that some critter who probably, like their average first year training videos that we play Baby Shark or whatever, right? They're probably doing, Stephen Hawking's universe every day in terms of knowledge
Or
compression
they've
into
got,
these
say,
people.
thousands of years to do that anyway.
Right. Or
That might also be the
they've
case.
extended their lifespan to the point where like they're in school for 300 years and then they get to go out and function as adults in their society. But you think they're going to show up and be interested in the monkeys that happen to build a skyscraper? No.
Well, not just that, but be interested in the monkeys that live out in the rural setting, and specifically to probe the anus.
Right. Yes. Yeah, because they'll. I mean, realistically, if I was that sufficiently advanced as a species, if I
Well,
came
you never
down
know.
and I
It could
landed
be a
on the
joke.
planet, and I was to get somebody from one of those lost tribes and put them in with somebody from New York, I'd ask them to explain to me the differences between their civilizations and levels of technology, because it would be indistinguishable from zero for me. Like, that is how advanced of a civilization we're talking about. They're just not interested in us. And if they were
Well,
interested
like
in us,
this, the same way where we still consider people in our, in the American rural setting to be about as advanced as the rest of the country relative to, say, some indigenous Peruvian tribe that hasn't had external contact. Spacefaring species probably wouldn't see much of a difference between who we think of as that separated lost tribe, if you will,
Yeah.
and say people working in isolation at NASA. Like,
Right.
there probably isn't much difference from an external perspective in that regard.
So realistically, if something took an interest in Earth, we're just going to be the annoying thing that we're going to be the little ticks on the planet that inhabit it, right? And
But
realistically,
probably
if
be
you
just for
have
resources.
right, well, that would be true, but and again, one of those things is if we were sufficiently advanced and we did recognize intelligent species, which I'm sure they'd be able to do, they just go to the next star system and just skip over us, right? Like,
Well, here's the thing.
why even bother? Or
Here's the
strip
thing.
the
If
planet from space.
we should be, I would say, and it's not like this is a real threat on a day-to-day basis, but like if a spacefaring species shows up, comes to us and lands and says hi, that is probably far worse of a danger than if they just show up and start killing things, because that means that we are part of the resource chain they're interested in.
Yeah. Yep.
Instead of just showing up to shoot you, they're showing up to use you too.
But
for something.
Well, I mean,
and
that
they're-
is kind of
they're-
how it always goes down.
well, I mean, no, I mean, you get these people who actually take an interest in human civilization, and realistically, these, if they are at that level of technology, they're stripping planets for resources from space, right? Like, they would just literally show up and physically absorb the material.
They'd probably just break the planet up into smaller chunks to make it easier.
Right.
I could easily see that happening. Or they just go and eat the asteroid belt, and we just notice it wasn't there after a while.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they would probably not leave us alone, because I'm assuming that I'm a firm believer that levels of technology advancement coincide with levels of ethics. I just happen to not believe that social justice ethics are those ethics. But
They're definitely not going to show up and ask our planet what pronouns to use.
that is true. Yes. Yeah. They're.
I would wager they would even assume our pronouns. Can you imagine that?
I don't think that pronouns would be used at all.
I don't think so either.
I think if pronouns were used, it would be in a sarcastic remark before someone pressed a button.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, all I can really say to that is real Vogon construction crew hours, fam.
Yeah. That Vogon construction crew is more accurate than most of the stuff when it comes to aliens' interest in humans. But yeah, so I just, when we go back to the UFO thing, and you get all these people who are excited for aliens, why would they ever bother? Like, that's the first question that I land with is, we have UFOs. Human beings are pretty creative, and especially when it comes to like skyborne shit, we aren't very good at estimating size, velocity, or any of those other things because we lack the context that our little monkey brains use to delineate those things.
Here's
Yeah,
the
well,
other
all we
thing.
got is like F-16s and, you know,
Well, here's the thing about that
carriers.
is angular parallax really fucks with your brain. So the apparent velocity of something can be way higher than it actually is just by parallax. So small rotations can give things that don't actually have high velocities, insane velocities.
Right.
And it can also, say place them on the other side of a phase boundary just by the perspective. So a ship that looks like it's underwater could just be on water. And then relative to something on either side of that phase boundary could look like it's going way faster than it should be. And then making sudden changes in direction when you're the one changing directions. Like, say, a camera that flips upside down.
Yep. And that's
and
one of
then
the
rotates.
In fact, I believe that when people were shown that whole like fighter jet tracing thing, and they heard the pilot sitting there and talking, and going, "Wow, that's amazing!" Ooh, ah, and it's seeing this like silvery little orb. I believe that was actually explained as the pilots knew what the hell was going on. They were testing a new gimbal system on a camera. That made it look largely like the thing was actually flying around and moving, and they were just basically observing a flare, or something to that effect. And the pilots were oohing and awing at how good the gimbal system and the AI was at keeping the image in focus.
Oh,
Which,
so it was a weather balloon.
Yeah, swamp gas, etc.
Gotcha.
yeah.
A swamp gas-filled weather balloon. Understood. Story closed. Go home. Everybody, nothing to see here.
Yeah.
All good.
Well, that's again, the point here is that UFO as a classification came before people started ascribing it in popular culture to aliens. So it literally just means we don't know what the fuck it is, and as far as the government's concerned, that's a national security threat. Because it could be other governments or aliens, or it could be God coming in. Who knows what the fuck it is? We don't know.
Oh,
And
it's
Right.
what's more
angels.
important is it's one of several known unknowns that carries with it far greater in importance unknown unknowns.
Well, we all know it's actually angels because we are the children of Lilith, and God has sent them to punish us. So, get in the mech. Yeah, I had to. It was necessary. What can I say?
So I have just been exploring a new software, and I have to say, FreeCAD is pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah. I haven't used it myself, but I've
FreeCAD
heard a
is
lot
nifty.
of good things.
Well, I really like parametric CAD systems. I'm still trying to learn how to use it. It's very, very similar to PTC Creo. But I like parametric CAD systems, and what they're giving you in terms of free stuff is absolutely amazing.
So I work with Inventor Pro by Autodesk, but I'm sure that's going to change at some point in the near future. But I like Inventor Pro. I know that a lot of people I've worked with swapped over to SolidWorks, and then other people I know use MX for CAD, and specifically also for converting from CAD to God, what the heck's the CNC?
Oh, okay.
Like so generating your CNC instructions.
Oh, G-code?
On CAD. Well, not just G-code, but also so there is an intermediate descriptor language that is used sometimes for
like a CNC assembly?
design. Kinda, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not.
So,
I think I know
like,
what you're talking about, but I'm not 100%.
It's kind of like assembler, with G-code being the byte code that would go onto the CPU in the analogy. It's slightly higher level than that, so it's more like the Microsoft version MASM, which has like macros and shit. But yeah, there's an intermediate level language that's there that MX will help out with. Depending on your point of view, help, but
Right.
as a thing to do it. But then, yeah, FreeCAD seems to be the good one to go to, just in
Yeah,
general.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody was using that to debunk the Earth being anything other than roundish the other day.
boo. I'm still learning. I'm trying to want a cat at my kitchen.
Oh,
So that's what
cool.
I'm trying to do with it.
Okay.
And I'm having limited success because I don't know how to use it, but I'm just very surprised that it is.
So, my recommendation: get yourself a 3D mouse.
What is a
If you're
3D mouse?
if you're working with CAD. Oh, my friend, you are going to love these things when you're doing any kind of three-dimensional manipulations.
I haven't worked with one, but I am familiar. Yeah, you've got X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
in your mouse.
Really?
So you can get if you don't have an immediate professional need for the more expensive ones, I would definitely just go with basically the dirt cheap knob. So 3D Connection, which is spelled with a fucking X because reasons, is is the brand. And I have one of the ones that has like a little screens on it and all the extra buttons and shit around the actual 3D mouse.
Oh,
But
okay.
the
Yeah,
3D
I'm
mouse
familiar with these
itself,
things.
yeah, but the actual 3D mouse itself is not, terribly difficult to work with if you have access to, say, your keyboard. But let's see.
I'll put a link to their website
This
so people
one,
can check that out if they're interested.
yeah,
Because I am actually familiar with these, and
Space Mouse. Okay.
for that sort of thing, it's really handy. It's basically like you've got essentially
Well, I'll link you this one.
you could have a secondary
First.
mouse just for another axis.
Yeah. Here's a good one, which is on the order of $400. Now I thought the small ones were cheaper than this because I'm only seeing like $170 here, which is, if memory serves, not right. Maybe something's changed. But yeah, here I'll just copy and paste this one. Here's another one. So you can see the knob in the middle is the thing that's important, and it has an up and down direction too, and you can twist and you can tilt. So you actually have all your rotational axes, you have all your tilt axes, all your Euler angles are accounted for.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Well, proper 6 degrees of freedom.
That looks very fancy.
Yeah, whenever I get around.
Yeah, you know
It'll be a
what?
minute.
The next time I have $400 to go spend on a mouse, I will
like I
do
said.
that. In the meantime,
Yeah.
I can use my shift key to do all of the exact same thing.
Well, as I said,
That's fair.
if you only should go for the good one if you have an immediate professional need. Otherwise, so in Inventor Pro, for Autodesk Inventor Pro, you can use the F keys to do a zoom, like say holding down shift, what you're just saying there, to do zooming and rotating and panning. You can use the F2, F3, and F4, not in order there. And then you just use your mouse and click and do things. But if, say, you wanted to use your mouse to click on things and then rotate your part at the same time, or rotate your part and click on several things, you can do it with the F keys and so on. It's just a bigger pain in the ass, and it's it cuts down the dev time by 2/3 to use a space mouse when you're doing something complicated.
Well, it's just a matter of using the right tools for the job.
But again, it's not necessary, and you can easily get away with using key combinations. So it's not in any means necessary, but it is nice to have that available to you.
Yeah,
I got one
I may
'cause I
look
got
into getting
tired of,
one of the just standalone units that doesn't have all the fancy
Yeah.
features, just the 6 degrees of freedom mouse itself, which isn't actually that expensive. It's not $400. It's like $200 maybe.
Right. Like I said, I thought it was cheaper than that. Like I could have sworn it being around $100, but maybe it's just that shit's gotten expensive recently.
It's got a semiconductor in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, mine was like on the order of $300, but like 5 or 6 years ago. No, it was more than that. I got it in like 2014. Hold on a second, I can even search it. Blah blah, my orders and so on. Blah blah.
But I mean, anything like that's
3D.
going to be like your shopping. Like I can look on eBay and see that the standalone unit, I can
Yeah,
find
okay.
one for $130 right now.
I got October 2015 order details. What did I pay for this thing? I know it was expensive, but what did I pay? You're not gonna. Okay, so I got that and a $10 thing for doing 3D virtual reality stuff. So mine was $385.
Oh, there you go.
Actually, I can show you the exact one I got.
But that being said, I mean, you can
Yeah.
get these things for not a terribly large price, especially if you're willing to go used as well.
Yeah, and so mine would be what a used one would be today, and I like it.
Like,
Um,
well, for instance,
like
like in your instance, if you wanted to pick one up, I'd say look on eBay for one of the just
yes,
standalone units because I'm seeing them here for like $130. I see an older one that's
there's
used for 40.
two used on the product page I just linked from Amazon. The first one used, very good condition, so air quotes there, $175,
Mm.
which
Yeah,
is the cost of just having the knob.
yeah, and I see an older version here, the Space Pilot, which is again a 6 degrees
Yeah.
of freedom one for $50 used. So might be worth your while
Does
to
that
look
look
up.
anything like?
Oh, it's not nearly as
That look,
ergonomic or cool, but
does that look like the one I just linked? The one I have?
it probably does.
That's because mine's the Space Pilot.
Older, but yeah, flatter.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, it looks it looks like something out of Star Trek as opposed to something out of whatever's got
Stargate.
that
The later episodes
or earlier. Fuck, who even
where
knows?
they
Where everything was
where they
cool
mashed
and
human technology onto alien shit
yeah,
and said, "Ta-da!"
yeah. Well, anyway, we've really got off on kind of a tangent here.
We
But,
did. Yeah, I
we did.
apologize.
Oh no,
I
it's okay. I
apologize.
mean, there's
Yeah, it's all Steve's fault. I had
It
nothing
is.
to do with
It
it.
is all
Damn it,
my
Steve.
fault. I am. Yeah. Trying to.
so we had some other stuff to cover here, and
Yeah,
what
speaking
we
of
were,
sudden tangents,
but yeah. So surprising no one, it comes that COVID-19 is still somewhat of a mystery. For some
but we
reason,
had a
it's
good idea of
particularly
something.
good at infecting humans, and the only other thing it might
And
be as
not
good at,
bats.
and not bats, no, the only other creature on the face of this whole fucking earth that it would be so perfectly adapted for is a pangolin,
Really?
of all things. And by the way, there were no bats or
There's
pangolins at the wet
similarity.
market. Just to clarify and put that
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, that was none of that. Like that vertical transmission did not happen in the wet market. It just was not physically possible because there wasn't physically any of those animals there.
Yeah.
There was, however, a place up in 1,000 miles north where you couldn't get to a bat cave of a certain location recently.
Yeah, that
Because,
place
uh,
was
people
marked as
were-
off limits, and then there was a wreck in front of it, and then there was some other thing, right?
Yeah, because certain people had gotten sick after mining guano by hand, which is par for the course apparently.
Well, when you've got a couple billion here, a couple billion there, who cares about a lost province?
Well,
Or,
that's why
an
you get your
escaped
PS4
bioweapon.
labs.
Who knows? Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's one of those things where like every single time they. Uh-oh, that didn't sound good.
Oh. That was inopportunely timed.
Yeah, that was yeah. Noise came out of the laundry machine that is probably having its bearings fail. So I was like, oh, it just suddenly stopped. We're dead. Nope, it's not. It's still going. It's just, just a terrible, terrible whirlpool. But yeah, I mean, every single time they release this stuff, it's always the same thing. It's like, well, yeah, we kind of knew this stuff was going on. We knew this, like, we knew back in March last year, we knew the following. We knew that there was a virology lab that was capable of studying this virus right next to the wet market. There were lab techs that had gotten sick. We knew that that the Chinese had explicitly been studying coronaviruses because the quote unquote claim was that bat coronaviruses were most likely to transmit to people, right? And then
Well, there was also just the fact that they had bat coronaviruses going around, and they wanted to
right.
investigate the bat population. So as an environmental measure, you have to study it too.
Yep.
Well, not only that, too, if we take into account the Xinjiang death cult that had listed members working at that specific biolab, that's kind of something else. And then how all of a sudden that all of the
I
hot
completely
spots
forgot about that one.
where
the same ones that got caught returning to fucking Korea.
Yeah, I will say this to everyone who gets to listen to this. Xinjiang, exactly as it's described, as it sounds, it's perfectly phonetic. Xinjiang, Israel. You'll find an interesting story about some death cult members that went to their church in Israel. And then all of a sudden, Israel's got a bad problem with coronavirus. Curiously.
Yeah, how about that?
Very curiously. And also, they happen to have churches at all the initial hot spots. But, I'm sure that's entirely coincidental.
Well, and those are, and so we should probably talk a little bit about what the death cult is, right? So the death cult is a little bit of a weird organization.
Yeah, their leader thinks he is Jesus and the devil.
Yep, they firmly believe that I think they are fundamentally Christians on some level, but they believe
they would
that
be
the
best
rapture
described as coming from a Christian dogma.
They believe that the rapture is their path to heaven, and that their place on earth is to try to bring about the rapture, right? So they are literally attempting to peacefully execute mass murder on a global scale. as best as can be described.
So one could understand why the CCP would not want to pin this on them. Like, yeah, it's a really, really good target. You could put it on them and say, hey, look what they did. But then that says, oh, wait, hold on. You let them work in your level 4 biolab? You won't even let Christians have a Bible that has all the verses. And you let a fucking death cult have high-placed people working into your level 4 fucking biohazard lab?
Right.
I mean, well, as we know, China is a country that puts a lot of faith in, well, I shouldn't say faith. China as a culture puts a lot of weight on face and how things are perceived. And my God, if you are trying to do your new Chinese century and a bunch of cultist assholes unleash a bioweapon on the world because they're crazy idiots, that doesn't look good for you,
Yeah, but it also advantages. It's.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not to say that they didn't take advantage.
Right. So I mean,
but it's a reason for them not to have just come out and said, "Hey, look, these assholes did it. Let's get them."
Like one of the things that we that is really annoying. Sorry, guys.
Well, I'm not hearing it. So
that bearing gets better and better every day. Every day, it just doesn't sound like a bearing. It must be just off enough that the actual drum, the inner drum's rubbing against the outer drum.
Maybe you should throw some grease in there or something.
I wish that was the problem.
Maybe you should throw a new bearing in there.
Yeah.
I'm told you're an engineer.
I am. However, one of the things that's rather interesting as being an engineer is you do dig down into parts, and it turns out that Whirlpool doesn't sell bearings for the machine.
You noticed that, didn't you?
Yeah, they want you to buy the entire tub assembly, which is $400.
So My dad
Now,
went through this. My dad went through this before his most recent washer, and he had the same exact problem where he just wanted to replace the fucking bearing. It was either the bearing or the belt. It didn't matter which one it was because they weren't going to sell it.
yep.
He had to he went on eBay and he tried to find parts sellers and stuff like that, and that wasn't really very helpful either. And we ended up just getting a new set of washer and dryer for the house.
That's kind of like where I'm at. Is I kind of
and
hate
it
the
was
design of this thing.
cheaper than going to the trouble of finding a way to get the parts.
That
If
is
I was to
incredibly annoying.
bill out for my time, it would be significantly more. I've spent more time digging through part numbers and design specs and calling manufacturer than I care to admit. I
Oh,
still
shit,
have
really?
to run my boroscope. Yeah, no, I put in like solid days into trying to find the bearing for this thing.
Okay, well,
And
fair enough
what
then.
you call the manufacturer and they say, "Oh, we don't have a bearing for that. It doesn't exist." And you're like, "What do you mean? What do you mean it
Oh, hey,
doesn't
look! I
exist?"
found an article. South Korea's secretive Shincheonji Church in foreign recruitment drive after COVID-19 exodus.
Yeah, you don't say.
You don't say.
It's
Huh.
really cool to be in a death cult until such time as the world blames you for, mass murder.
So
Yeah, I'll absolutely link that for everybody.
the spike protein is not just well adapted, it's really well adapted specifically to binding to human ACE2.
Like as if someone designed it that way.
Now, again, this doesn't mean someone designed a bioweapon. However plausible or not plausible that may be, it is.
Aww.
Yeah, I'd just say that. I mean, we can't really say for sure. It could as much be a bioweapon as it could be legitimate research.
We went through the pros and cons, etc., blah blah blah, and every public institution in China is part of the CCP government regime, and every company with more than 50 people is part of the CCP government regime. I mean, it's basically any one of them you interact with across their border. So you can claim that they might be trying to do the whole two birds, one stone bit with having research done in one area and getting certain interpretive outcomes for different applications.
Well, one thing you can say for sure is dual use research and will be a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, right, China is chomping at the bit. So the original projected time at which the Chinese economy will overtake the United States economy is later on this decade. And that's entirely possible, largely because China is an unregulated empire. And
also partly because we have a fuckhead at the helm right now.
It's not his fault.
We can't verify that. We don't actually know if the person that controls Joe has a head, so we don't know if that's a fuckhead or a fuckass or whatever.
We have the problem that we face, right, as a society is we have gotten we've gotten to the point where we've voluntarily traded safety and all risk aversion to not actually getting shit done. And China has yet to implement a similar type strategy to protect its population. The upside for us is our people live long, fat, happy lives. The downside for us is we can't pull our ass between our hands and take a shit, right? Like that's just the way it is. So we have all of these safety requirements that China doesn't comply by, which means that their production's faster, which means their economy grows faster, and economic growth is exponential. So that's the problem that we have with China.
So, which is
what's that?
Funny later. I said unsustainably so, which will be. Well, I'd say it's gonna be funny later, but that's like an abstract joke.
They're kind of running to their own collapse.
Crisis. It's gonna be a horrible crisis when they run in right smack back into the inability to feed themselves, and in order to compensate, they're gonna start a global war. Which that's my prediction, but.
Well, and that's
again,
the thing
is
the United States had we not had the Obama years where Obama was trying to cozy up to China to get them to behave, instead of realizing they have a much longer outlook than 8 years, right, or 4 years till your next election, which is largely our presidential directive, right? They have a multi-century viewpoint, and the consequence is that while yes, they can't feed their people, and yes, they have to import all of their stuff. we have done nothing to leverage that economic weakness against them to slow their growth. They're out there building friggin' islands and boats and staffing them, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well, that's not entirely true. I mean, over the last 4 years, there was work that was done to actually confront some of these issues. Mind you, all of that work has been entirely undone in the past 5 months.
They're building their navy and their army, and they just said that they're going to build 1,700 nukes, whatever it was.
Well, it's
like they are physically preparing for war at a much faster scale than the U.S. is, and you've got to know, like, they're not just building up to take on us, but they are planning on having allies in the area.
Well, they have their technology. Their technology is still crap, right? Their technology is still crap.
I'm not expecting the boats to come to the U.S. I'm expecting them to make it to Taiwan.
They are. China has dug in, and they've determined that they want to fight a defense. They probably want to trigger a war, and they want it to be a defensive war because they have their rings of defense, right? They have their outermost reaching subs, and then their subs and their anti-ship ballistic missile platforms. Then they have their subs, their anti-ship ballistic missile platforms, and what is it? The other thing that they advertise. Some of their air flight stuff, right? Which they stole from the United States.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
As they do.
And then you get into like full range, and they have all the stuff that they had previously at the outer boundaries, but then you also engage their like Coast Guard vessels and everything else, and because it's all CCP owned, it's basically one giant naval fleet under the guise of a variety of different auspices, right? Instead of just the PLA.
Again, they're building shipyards, and not just in China. Remember, they have...
they've got a number of 99-year leases based on their Belt and Road initiatives around the world.
And they've got a number of shipyards that they're constructing which are not scaled for the economies that they even project for the area to have.
Well,
as a matter of fact,
to be military bases.
Specifically, look up the port of Djibouti.
I love Djibouti.
Yeah.
Djibouti's my favorite country. Has been since I was like 8.
Of course. I mean, how could it not be, right? But look up that port, constructed through the Belt and Road Initiative. China is now in charge, and they've been beefing it up since they took over.
Well, and I mean, at the end of the day, this comes back to the problem, right? The United States, and this is one of the things I really liked about the trade wars under Trump, was the United States' only leverage against China is the fact that they are dependent on the entire rest of the world for their food, energy, and raw materials. If we decided to convert our production to domestic and tariffed produced goods coming into the country from China accordingly, we would essentially cut off a significant portion of China's supply to raw resources.
Oh, yeah.
You got to keep in mind, they do actually control some resources, which are... I mean, we can get them elsewhere, but it would be easier to just get them from China, like some of the rare earth metals.
Oh, the rare earths are the biggest one.
Like cerium.
Well, no, I mean, we can easily do them here. This goes back to the United States can't get out of its own fucking way, right? The reason we don't process the rare earths, and they aren't rare. First off, that's a complete myth. We actually
the lanthanides and actinides,
right?
Blah blah blah.
Which, from a chemical perspective, the lanthanides and the actinides are... I think we talked about this in an earlier episode when you weren't here.
They're called the rare earth metals because they were a bitch to find. We don't have to go into too much detail on
that. The short version is that all of the stuff we play with in chemistry is the outer bands of electrons, and the stuff the rare earths are identical in every other way to pretty much everything that precedes them.
So they've
separating
got some
them out.
Interesting chemistry to them that makes them somewhat unique sometimes. For instance, the size of the atom might be important if you're talking about semiconductors.
Well, they've got a bunch of different uses.
Yeah.
Like so
but
we have...
in terms of the outer valence, they're like the other transition metals. They're all basically di or trivalent in that regard until you strip off a few electrons and they decide to do weird things with extra orbital spaces.
So like neodymium, right? Neodymium is pretty abundant, but the problem is that the actual processing of it is incredibly toxic, right? We have to use some of the harshest chemicals that we have. Yeah, that's a really good word for it. So and by the way, we also produce
cobalt mining.
Right. Yeah. Well, cobalt mining is largely done by Africans in bare hands and
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, fine.
tunnels.
It's very safe for Americans to mine cobalt.
It is.
So what you're saying is
It's just
cobalt
really
mining
bad
is
for
very
Africans.
energy efficient and does not require a large amount of electricity.
Cobalt
Has a
know
very
what?
good carbon offset.
It's a very green technology. Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm saying that Tesla is built on the neo-colonialist of the current African population.
Well, here's the
only
sad
place
part
where it's
is
cost-effective to mine it.
the sad part is that a lot of localities over there have figured out how to make a company and deal with internationals.
Yep.
What they haven't figured out is how to not make like 6-year-olds go down into the mines and collect things.
Well, that's the point, right?
For almost no money.
All of the stuff like for the rare earths, whether it's cobalt or neodymium or any of these other things that power a lot of our high energy technologies, we have abundant resources in the United States that are actually, on par with most of the rest of the world, but we can't process it because it requires incredibly toxic compounds, which you then have to somehow dispose of, and processing, like the stuff that will strip out the rare earths from everything else on a chemical level, it'll strip out everything else from everything else because that's what it's designed to do. And then on top of that, you also get a lot of these compounds are also radioactive. So you end up producing a significant portion of rad stuff that because we don't have a robust nuclear program in the United States, we don't have a process to deal with it.
Well, here's as another, as a part of that, like I'm sure that as far as radioactive waste production out of domestic production for commodities and for feedstocks, like Florida gets kind of screwed on this. If you didn't realize, we down here in Florida supply phosphate to a lot of the planet. Like 3/4 of the phosphate industry back in 2006 or whatever was supplied by the U.S. through Florida, and it's done by sulfating the calcium phosphate that's mined. And the problem is that you then produce all this calcium sulfate, which can't be used in drywall, mind you, because it's got uranium in it.
Right. Yep. Okay.
So they have these things called sulfate stacks, and they are radioactive waste stacks from the phosphate production process. That it's not much uranium. It's just impractical from the industry standpoint. Like it's not financially feasible to mine out the uranium for use.
Well, we don't
make money doing that.
We could probably get to the point where it was useful to do something like that, especially if we were doing this with rare earths. But the problem is, again, we don't have a very robust nuclear program. And uranium is so cheap on the global market that there's no real reason to do anything to go through a process and go after this stuff, especially considering you'd essentially in the United States have to build all of these fuel reprocessing facilities that Carter banned in the 1970s. Right?
Yeah, Carter was a piece of shit.
He really screwed up the nuclear stuff. So we can reprocess nuclear fuel. We can reprocess a lot of the. We could, if we actually turned around and had a robust nuclear program, we could do our own rare earths manufacturing, which would put China essentially out of business. And in fact, when I was at the thorium stuff, at the thorium conferences, there was a guy there who owned significant rare earth mines, but he couldn't do anything with them. So he was really hoping that the thorium folks would really get up off the ground, and he was willing to fund the conference because he had billions of dollars in assets that he can't extract. But if he could throw a few $1 million at the thorium folks and get the thorium folks off the ground was his goal.
Yeah.
Right? Then all of a sudden the thorium that is a byproduct of his mining process and mining and processing process would have a place in a thorium-based reactor, and therefore all of a sudden he could actually use he would not only be able to use his waste stream, but he would also be able to use his primary product. And they actually went into the full presentation on his mines and his stakeholder. He was very upfront with why he was there. And basically, he went into the EPA and said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to process all of our rare earths right? We're gonna process. We're gonna handle all of the chemicals as mixed waste. We're gonna do all of these costs because there's such a demand. And then all of the thorium that we separate out is going to be stored in a nuclear shielded cask on site, on like springs loaded in a desert sitting, like the whole bit. Like he went, balls to the wall with the
The whole
design
shebang,
plans.
right?
Whole shebang. This stuff would be impossible. Like the way it looked like to me was that if you shot it with a missile, it would just yo-yo back and forth like a terrible, what is it, when you punch those dolls and they come right back up and they're ready to be punched in the face again? Yeah, it's just like one of those structures. It's crazy. But he couldn't do it because the regs were such that we can't do our own rare earth processing. China has no such problem with sitting there and doing the rare earth processing and then
their
dumping
shit, what,
it
they
into
just
the
pour it
nearby
right back
neighbor's
into the
field.
nearest receptacle?
They don't even dump it in the receptacle. They just dump it in their farmland. What the hell do they care? Which is one of the reasons why they can't feed their people.
The problem is they also have no problem harvesting organs from people that they don't like.
Right.
It's not exactly
taking their land, harvesting their organs.
Not exactly like it's not a government that cares about people.
Right. And there are advantages
as opposed to governments that care too much about people.
Oh right. Yeah, no, it's a very utilitarian system. They can absolutely they can get shit done. You can definitely say that.
You got to keep in mind this is a society that cares about presentation to the degree that if you take leftovers home from a meal, you're looked down upon because you're not able to provide for yourself. Which basically, when you go to China, you don't take leftovers home. In middle class or higher society. Period. It's very much frowned upon.
Well, I mean, the key thing is that there is a balance to be struck here, and we're on the wrong side of it, and they're on the wrong side of it, and the United States could easily push them over, just by restricting their imports and working with the rest of the world to restrict their COVID is a perfect reason for Australia, the United States, and Europe to sit down together and say, hey, China, we're sorry, but you guys fucked us up, and then in 2 years we'll let you out of the trade lock. In the meantime, go have fun feeding your own people and powering your own coal plants, right? It would shut down their economy entirely, right? For 2 years.
So the thing is, if you look at the will of the nation to do things like that, so the end result is something that we should be well aware of by now, and there would be significantly greater human misery involved over there.
Absolutely.
Because they're not going to take any cuts at the top. They're going to push it all the way to the bottom.
Here's the thing.
Right.
There's two ways out. There's collapse and there's expansionism.
Right.
And so if they decide to go the latter route, like Nazi Germany did, and they decide to start just taking over everything around them, as it stands right now, the United States, there's not a whole lot the U.S. can just do.
I disagree.
There are extreme options. There are some aggressive options that are not as palatable, which would not be taken.
If we turn around
there's the diplomacy route, which is going to be what we try first, and then it would fail.
That one already has failed.
Right.
We'd be giving them more time to do something that we would not be able to counter effectively before it did way too much damage.
And that's kind of the point, is the appropriate,
Trump
was on point when he was doing these trade wars that everybody was clutching their pearls about, because every single time Trump did a trade war, it significantly set China back. And the previous years under Obama, right, one of the problems that Obama had was he didn't fund the military very well, which meant that we weren't building, the left was all happy because instead of building tanks, planes, and bombs, and battle aircraft carriers and submarines, right, we were doing bake sales, and that's what they wanted.
Well,
the only problem with that is that means that we stopped. There's a curve, right? We have to keep on building ships in perpetuity to basically hold our own, because we have fleets all over the place. And what ended up happening was, because Obama stopped it for such a long period of time, eventually the ships that are coming out of retirement or needing to be refueled or whatever, our fleet is decreasing over a certain period of time, while China is just perpetually expanding. Now, Trump fixed that But it still takes, by the time that he strikes a contract and the ship gets built, or the plane gets built, or the tank gets built, it's years. These are multi-billion-dollar projects on an aircraft carrier or, an Abrams tank.
Aircraft carriers will take what was the shortest time? Like 4.5 years.
I don't know what it is. I thought it was on the order of like 10 to 15, but we only have a handful of facilities can do it.
Just to get the vessel like seaworthy, not like functional, but like just to get the hull made.
I don't know.
It takes
I don't
a
work
long
at a
time
shipyard.
to get the whole thing put together.
I can only imagine. I mean, it's really a monumental effort to put one of those things together.
They're
I think the order time is like 11 years.
It could be. I'm pretty sure. I thought that aircraft carriers were 15 years of
Maybe
building before they come online, which is one of the reasons why we are looking to like smaller. We're trying to move into higher tech, smaller profile ships, specifically because we can pump these out of many more facilities.
That's what it was. Depending on their size, most aircraft carriers tend to, and this is Google, so take the grain of salt as you will. The Nimitz class aircraft carriers took on average 6 years to build. Britain's latest HMS blah 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 commissioned 2007, sea trials 2017, which is that's around what I thought.
10 years.
Basically, yeah.
Maybe it's 15 years to strip them down then.
It takes a long time to take those things apart.
Yeah,
must take longer to someplace to put that shit,
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
That's one of the big things. People don't realize how much stuff is on there.
Yeah.
That if you care about anything about it, you have to take the time to get rid of it.
Yep.
And the thing about a ship is everything's really tight. So everything's got to be built with that tightness in mind. So there's wires everywhere.
Well, it's a lot easier to put your...
is nuts.
It's a lot easier to put your reactor in than it is to take it out. Because when you put it in, it's nice and clean. And when you take it out, it's all radioactively contaminated.
It's the same, like, just imagine...
Well, if you're not in China. In China, it would not be so hard.
Right. Just say like a diesel sub, or any car engine. Same rules apply here. It's way easier when it's fresh to go. When you have to clean all that crap off of it, and then with the rad stuff, it's just a whole other story.
Yeah.
That's a real pain. Like the whole solution
that's...
to pollution being dilution thing is really taking to heart there, and you use a lot of cleaning stuff.
Well, and I have a buddy who he worked on decommissioning the Enterprise, right? And that's his big claim to fame. Like he was one of the many engineers.
Awesome.
Oh yeah,
that's actually pretty cool.
Oh yeah. He that was his big project. He worked down at Newport News, and his job was to decommission the Enterprise. And so they would write the packages 15 years before they were executed.
Yeah.
And then when they went to go execute them, apparently like these documents would be, hundreds or thousands of pages of work instruction. And all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, I'm not allowed to do a lot of really the coolest things in my rule books, which is unfortunate, just because it's impractical to do at the levels that we hold it at. But you listen to this guy, right? And this guy is all, oh yeah, we used to do this, we used to do that. And, he drained the entire reactor using a series of pumps, and he'd be like, oh yeah, we got real rad levels off this. Meanwhile, I think my total dose, my lifetime exposure is somewhere around 1 millirem.
Wow.
For my entire life as a nuclear engineer going into nuclear labs.
That's really low.
It is astoundingly low. Your average background is like, I thought it was like 2 or 3 millirem or something like that.
Somewhere around there.
So, 1 millirem additional lifetime exposure. Which means that I'm probably not even getting enough dose to actually gain the benefits of hormesis.
Well, maybe if you can find a nice radioactive spider, make something happen.
No, you just have to eat your spice every day.
Yeah.
Spice is the life.
I just gotta pound them bananas. Pound them bananas like nobody's business.
That's always a fun one. When I'm talking with people, they bring up like contaminants and natural food and stuff. They say, "What do you think is better, or what do you think is less dangerous to you,
Oh, I prefer my
natural or
strychnine
artificial?"
100% all natural. Thank you very much. I
No, no,
prefer it
no. It's
only from apples.
which one is less dangerous to you, natural or artificial banana flavoring? And
Yeah.
invariably they will say, well, they'll think it's a trick question at first, and they'll say the natural. I say, okay, well, you'll get methyl mercury poisoning
Yeah.
because that's the major contaminant, and it's a minor contaminant to be sure, but like that's the major contaminant of contaminants present in natural banana flavoring is methyl mercury,
Yep.
whereas in artificial banana flavoring it's ammonia,
Yep.
which it basically doesn't exist as far as your body's concerned at the concentrations. So methyl mercury, unfortunately, is a cumulative poison, and it's catalytic in its toxicity. So that's bad. Um, so don't pound too many bananas where you turn into a Mad Hatter. But certainly
Oh.
if you can get your hormesis on.
Well, and so for those who don't know, hormesis is it is not unique to any individual hazard. One of the things that is semi-true of nearly everything is that very, very small amounts of toxic things generally produce positive impacts. And this includes like extremely diluted herbicides and stuff like that, because the same mechanisms that they act upon to kill you, right, tend to lead to minor improvements at very, very low dosages. And in
So
the
there's
case of
something in the human brain called the optimal brain damage algorithm, which your body does practice as well as in artificial intelligence.
yeah,
Um, and so when you're born, a lot of your brain cells die off, about half. Or sorry, a
yeah,
lot of connections die off, about half of them. But the brain cells are all still there, and that continues on throughout your life. It's not something that happens instantly at the very beginning and then goes away. Your brain is constantly losing connections as well as forming them. That's why people who are not stimulated as a child become very poorly developed people by the time they're an adult.
hmm,
It's because you need to create connections so that the ones that are taken away cause a benefit, and that again continues throughout your life.
yeah,
So it does slow down quite a bit, and so later on, like you need your dull moments in the same way where like a minor amount of a background toxin makes your body react one against it so that it's kind of your body will recognize it, but two so that it can cause the need to fix things.
right. In the
You get
case
that kind of
of
renewal cycle.
in the case of radiation, the hypothesized mechanism, if you have enough photons coming in and breaking bonds in your DNA, uh, such that things that were cells that were already damaged die off, that's a good thing because then they don't become cancerous. And the cells
Yeah.
that are healthy will just get repaired because the rate at which the photons are coming in is so low in comparison to the rest of the stuff. And so you'll get, if you have a little bit of additional rad exposure, a number of cancerous cells, the theory, this is all theory, right? We don't know why the hormesis
Yeah,
effect
it's
occurs,
definitely
right?
theory.
But at the same time, the theory is that the ratio at which you're killing off cells that are significantly damaged but keep on keeping on because life finds a way, is faster than the damage to new cells.
So
Because if you already have a damaged bond and you break the bond across from it, it becomes free swinging in the breeze.
so something that should definitely be said here. This is in no way, in any way, comparable to homeopathy,
Right.
which it zero to do with it. So the idea of having a small background exposure to something that causes your body to react to it and repair itself and come out stronger, that is very different from the less of it that's actually present, the more powerful it is.
Right.
Well, I don't know if that's entirely how homeopathy works, but I honestly couldn't say because I
You need to
haven't
read
done.
Hahnemann's.
No, I've seen a little bit of it that's completely dumb bullshit. And all of those, like, what is it, one drop mixed in with water that's then
Yeah,
mixed
Martin
in with...
Gardner's analogies are great.
Yes,
on this kind of stuff.
some of it's really, really dumb, but I mean, some of the concepts of homeopathy actually make sense. But yeah, the
Well,
specifically homeopathic medicines, a lot of those are some of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard in all my days.
Yep.
so the idea of water having a memory, and
Wait, who says
that
this?
this is the homeopathy theory. This is Hahnemann's theory of homeopathy. Yeah, uh, water has memory, and the way you shake the water with the ingredient imparts the special nature of the ingredient onto the water. And the more dilute you make the water after this, or substance after this, the more the impact that first bit of material has. So you
Huh.
can
Well,
keep in
I
mind.
can actually put some credence to the water being a storage medium because water can be a storage medium.
Oh,
But
yes, but
Absolutely.
not of
We
not
call
of
we
long-term
call that
information in the way we're
hydroelectric
talking.
dams.
no, I mean, water can be an information storage medium. I mean, you could build a hard
Yes,
drive
it
out of it.
can as ice maybe, but not as water.
Not today. And it
I
would also
just
probably need some additives too, if we're being entirely honest.
I'm telling you, the way that they say it is, for one
Oh
thing.
yeah, no, I don't
forgot the
mean it the
first.
way they mean it actually.
I understand. I know
But yeah, no, I'm just kind of
onto
arguing the
something.
point.
But I forgot the most important tenet of the entire thing, which more important even than the more diluted is, the more powerful it
Oh right.
is that the thing that causes the symptom is the thing you add into the water to treat the symptom.
Right. That's smart.
So if you say, I don't know, took rotten, and this is a bad example because, well, okay, let's say you were stupid and you decided to chow down on datura, and you got really bad backaches, and you had heart palpitations, and you turned flush red. Um, then the remedy here would be for you to take some datura, crush it up, dilute a specific amount of it by mass into water, uh, 1 part in 10, shake it forward and backward, side to side, up and down, 10 times each way. Shit you not, that's the way to do it.
No,
I might
no,
not
I
have the
believe you.
order correct. I might not have the order of the orientations correct there, but it's 10 times shaking it in each of the three cardinal directions.
What, not a prime
Or
number? Come on.
right. Uh, and then they do 1 part in 10 serial dilutions of that to get the strength of the medicine, if you will, up. And so the idea is that the thing that caused the harms also removes the harm somehow. And so but the thing that's the worst about it is they will go beyond Avogadro's limit with this. Um, so X on homeopathic medicines, whenever you see like the strength of it and it has like a number next to an X, that's a tenfold dilution. That's the number of serial 1 in 10 dilutions they've done. They go up to and then if you see C, that's for C as in 100. That's 1 part in 100 dilutions. They go up to like 1500. I think it's a 1500 C or 1500 X. It doesn't really matter which one. It's way past 1 part in 10 to the 26. So if they're way past Avogadro's limit at that point, 1 part in 10 to the 23, rather. Um, so by the time you get to that extreme, you're drinking basically the purest water you've ever had. Minus the background contamination, because I guarantee they don't use distilled water. It's probably just
Well,
tap water.
I have to say that is more about homeopathy than I have ever learned. There's a whole
So,
plethora of knowledge that I've forgotten throughout my life, and this is something that was never in that category.
so here's something that's great about the whole entire thing, though, is all the wonderful kind of scientific jokes that come back for it. In fact, October 23rd is 1023 Day. That's basically anti-homeopathy day. And what you'll find on some college campuses are homeopathic vodkas, which are fantastic if you're a college student, because it does help you with your hangover.
I'm sure it does, actually.
Yeah,
It's treating
you
the
walk up,
underlying cause, really.
you walk up, you get yourself a liter of homeopathic vodka. No matter how much you drink, you'll never get drunk. Beautiful. Perfect. And they make it via the same method that homeopaths use to make their medicine. There is actually vodka involved in the process, although none of it is involved in what you're drinking.
Well, that's
keep in mind that the concentration kind of puts in mind a ridiculous amount of water that would be required. You don't need that much water to do this. All you need is to go through the serial dilution steps with small amounts of water. So to get to 10 to the 24, you only need, say you're doing it on a milliliter scale, you only need to have like about a soda can's worth of water. One milliliter and 10 milliliters being the previous step up that ladder. 240 milliliters of water is roughly the size of a Coke can. I think it's 230 milliliters in a Coke can. It's on the cusp of that cutoff.
How utterly silly.
You can, you don't need a whole lot of water to do that. And if you want to make like a large thing of it, you just have to very slightly scale up at the very beginning of the process. And in 1500 whatever it was concentration, Martin Gardner, a guy who writes for several different like science mags and so on, I think he does something with astrophysics. Anyway, 1500 whatever it was is a grain of rice that's powdered up and then diluted into a sphere of water that extends out past the orbit of Pluto in the center of the sun. And then I think you have to do that. I think you have to then proceed with the same size dilution, same scale of dilution several more times to get to the kind of concentrations that they purport to have remaining inside the medical product.
What does that say? "Quote unquote" concentrations?
Right. So when I say there's nothing in there, but it's the purest crap water you've ever had, absent of the ingredients, when you get past, like 24x or whatever, 30C is a common concentration you'll find.
So what's your
common preparation?
Well, if I'm to understand this correctly, what you're saying is that there's less vodka in this than there is in a standard PCR test of Corona.
I'm not sure that's entirely accurate, but it's a good analogy.
Oh, in terms of vodka being involved, I'm sure there was some extra vodka involved in the COVID part.
Oh, probably so. No, I just mean iterations.
Just south of Russia. They are just south of Russia. They have the best vodka in the world over there.
Oh, there you go.
Largely because nobody can taste anything there anyway.
Oh, and just as an update, I don't know if you saw this. I actually linked this one like a week ago, but ivermectin is now in and is a
How about that, huh?
functional treatment. Who would have figured?
And here's the thing, like
so you couple that with everything else.
But
I wouldn't have expected that either. Although I guess if you think about it from the perspective of if you're fighting off nasty disease number 1 and you contract nasty disease number 2, it might sit there and help you in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, so like the idea of giving someone who has a clearly viral infection, which by the way, you got to be referencing the common cold or the flu here, not COVID. The idea of giving them like a Z-Pack in general is actually not as it's not without its merit, because you can help your body focus on just killing the virus. Macrolide antibiotics like zithromycin aren't bacteriostatic like say Augmentin or amoxicillin. They actively kill the bacteria instead of preventing them from multiplying. So that is an active treatment that can lighten the load on a person who's already has a struggling immune system.
Oh, sure.
So
you're kind of clearing off the board, as it were.
What was the improvement in factors from the ivermectin? Isn't ivermectin like dewormer?
Yeah, it's an anti-parasite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, oddly enough.
So I mean, quinine is an anti-malarial, but it's also got other uses.
And also in this same study, this same study, funny enough, showed that azithromycin and doxycycline were generally effective
Yeah.
in, note, early stage COVID-19. As we have said since the day one, if you catch these things early, there are efficacious treatments. But anyway,
That means
it would
go
be
and talk to the
things that
doctor to
it's
get a
like
cough.
people that have like thin blood or have liver conditions or something, they wouldn't go on the ivermectin. But I'll just read it
But there's
directly here.
other
It says,
treatments.
including the ivermectin in
Yeah.
a large-scale trial like Principle, we hope to generate robust evidence to determine how effective the treatment is against COVID-19 and whether there are benefits or harms associated with its use. So this is it's from Reuters, so there's not a lot there.
Yeah. You're talking about the UK study that's underway,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oxford study.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly that one, yes.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll reflect the similar results to the azithromycin, zinc, and hydroxychloroquine study.
Yeah, I mean, basically all of our I don't want to
Which
say
still pisses me
conjecture,
off.
but I mean
that
all of
was
our
hypotheses, speculation, etc.
yeah, I mean,
we can charitably call it that.
well, pretty much all of the early treatments that got tried that showed promise have basically
And then
come through.
that's subsequently ignored.
I mean,
Well,
as
I
long as
mean,
we're not talking like Silver Saw from Jim Baker or something like that, you know.
I was talking to somebody over the weekend, right? Went out to a friend's house and they're like, "What, why did you vote for Trump?" And he didn't have a COVID plan, and I'm like, his COVID plan was that there is nothing you can do about COVID and to leave it to the states. Well, I don't think that's true and fair. Why? What were you? He's and one of the other points that they brought up was that he minimized it early on. And there's two things to that. One is I don't understand why people are upset that he was trying to bring some sort of light of hope. And the other is it turns out he was fucking right.
Yeah, go
The
fucking figure.
entire
time. Like, he'd be like, "Hey, yeah, look, here's some good news over here." And then the media would be like, "No, don't go seek treatment.
Oh,
Suffer
as a matter
at
of
the
fact,
hands of the virus."
the hearings that have been going on in the past few days, that specifically has come out. Basically, that Birx knew that her career was done by getting attached to Trump, and then we see through the direct testimony of these people that, oh yeah, no, if he said it was good, we basically just weren't able to use it as a treatment anymore.
So
What
here's the thing that really
hearings
pissed me
are
off
these?
about
I will try and
other
find you a link.
congressional, right?
Yeah, congressional hearings on this. Yeah.
So while he's finding the link, it wasn't just like at the top like that. There were people who were in charge of hospital policy that, via their TDS, absolutely refused, and to this day still refuse, to accept the scientific evidence that these treatments work. And like PPE, needing the appropriate setting and the appropriate usage to function properly, these treatments need the appropriate setting and the appropriate usage to function properly.
Yep.
And so the meta-analyses and the cross studies that looked at data in a way, basically looked at treatment data in a way that was fucking useless, in my opinion, that were used to eliminate wholesale from the availability to patients via policy decision these effective treatments. I think it's disgusting that we got to that point. And I've foamed at the mouth enough over the past year, longer than a year, about that. I don't need to hear me about it yet again, but like, just the point is, it wasn't just like Birx and Fauci. It was like chiefs of medicine and the surgeons sitting on boards, etc. Right. They actively said no, and still do in some cases to this day.
Well, what it really comes down to is everybody was. Fauci came out initially and gave his actual technical expertise, and then because it agreed with Trump. Yes, he did, and that's what we saw in the emails. When he first came out, he was providing what he actually believed, whether it be the masks or whether it be the treatments or whatever else. And then, after getting beat up for 3 weeks for being in Trump's pocket, right, and being a mouthpiece of Trump, Then he switched topics and decided to be in this semi-antagonistic role towards Trump, where he would counter every single thing that Trump said, and then Trump would come out and say, but we had a really great discussion, we were in alignment, and then he'd go, oh yeah, and then say something completely different. That's what ended up happening. We switched to, initially, I think these people were actually trying to do the right thing, and as time went on, they caved to political pressure. They caved their technical opinions to political pressure, and all of them, like, they deserve to lose their jobs for what
You
happened.
gotta remember here,
Every single person.
Fauci's been a political animal the entire time. Now, moreover...
Fauci's been on the grid since the 80s.
This is going to be switching topics here, and this might be something Evan's looking for. Fauci fought Trump hard on ending gain-of-function research in the U.S.
Oh, yeah, I've got a link for that, as a matter of fact, specifically an article on that one.
That's true. That's true, and I would have disagreed with Trump as well. I like I said, I am a firm believer that just because something associated with it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. But if we do it, we should do it here where we have appropriate safety protocols rather than offloading our shit to China.
Okay, so I have something to say about that, and let's just we can
really?
move past.
What a fucking surprise!
We can move past the. We can. Fuck you. So we can move past the part where preliminary research has been done, and look at nuclear testing. We don't do nuclear testing here at home. We agree with everyone else not to do it. Well, I'm talking about setting the bombs off.
There's a huge difference between nuclear testing and gain of function.
But we're talking about the same size scale here, where nuclear contamination of a region...
But we're talking about two completely different mechanisms of interaction. When you're dealing with complete physics, the reason we stopped testing nuclear weapons is not because we got together and we sat in a fucking drum circle and everybody sang Kumbaya.
Yeah, okay.
No. We got to the point where we had supercomputers that were capable of running this simulation anyways. Like over the fall.
Hold on a second. We've got that now with gain-of-function shit.
But we can't – it's not the same thing. Like, you can't turn around and test whether gain-of-function automatically works. You can only do that with the stuff that you've already observed. Right? In the case of nuclear, it's physics. There's nothing other than what you've already observed. And quite literally, like when I was bitching last semester about this stupid friggin' program that we have to deal with, it is Fortran code, for those of you who know how old that is, of something that was it's like Rev 6. I think it's 6.2.
It's entirely possible that Fortran is older than listeners of this.
In the 1970s and 1980s, specifically to simulate it. What's up? Hello?
What? What, huh?
Steve was on his own planet for a little while.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, it's a completely different thing. Like, it's a physics simulator. We have this stuff built in. The lab where I work did a lot of the early experimental research that allowed us to move from the point where we no longer have to test the weapons because we know exactly what's going to happen, because we have the Monte Carlo programs that can predict what's going to happen because they literally generate all the theoretical particles that would be generated in the reaction.
If you click
and
on
they're
that
accurate
link,
to like 0.1%.
So if you click on the link to the in silico comparison, and then you scroll down to figure 1, and you look at that image that shows the spike protein clamping down on ACE2.
What are you talking about? I don't see a link in here at all.
In show ideas.
The COVID origins. Okay, the Nature article.
Comparison. Yes.
Yeah, third one up there.
Yeah.
From the DNA, via the advances that have been made in the past several decades on protein folding simulation, we can produce that.
Sure. We can test it on an individual thing. That would be like testing for poisons.
That right there, that image, that simulation results, that is not something you observe. You observe the after effects of that if it happens. But we can predict this we can see the after effects of it happening, similar to the way we know cosmic rays produce muons via the fallout from them.
I disagree. Again, the whole point is to determine how the virus will evolve, what it can do, what functions it can gain, how it can gain that.
Gain of function
we can
largely,
predict,
when it comes to vaccine research, is to make something that can infect a host,
yes,
so you can get antibodies to form, and then mass produce those to inoculate with.
absolutely. So we still aren't quite to the point where we can synthesize actual DNA and structures on a reliable scale. I know we can do it theoretically in some labs. I think it still has value.
You said reliable scale. That's caveat enough.
Okay, let me give you an example of gain of function that's relevant to COVID. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a modified adenovirus vaccine. When they say modified adenovirus vaccine, they modified the surface proteins of it.
Sure, and they did that
genetic change.
Sure, and
which
that
is
wasn't
exactly
done,
what you do for gain of function.
But that wasn't done completely and totally in a simulator. It was done with the pre-existing protein that we already knew about. That's the fundamental difference. Nuclear testing never ended in the United States. We just moved it into computers because we can literally, when you test a bomb, right? A bomb is a spherical explosion of specific isotopes that have a shitload of data. And I mean, like, I have 4 or 5 gig databases of just neutron interactions with different individual elements. That's the level of granularity that we have because we have the 3 or 4 different naval labs. We have like 4 or 5 different DOE facilities. We have the NRC work and the stuff from private contractors. At the end of the, I mean, all of this stuff is kept very, very much under kind of, I don't want to say it's secret because it's not, right? It's kept away from people so people don't see how much we actually have. And, it tends to be very, traded papers and, between people who have clearances. Like when I'm going and interviewing at these schools for grad school, right? They're literally saying every single person has a clearance and was working on a project, right? That's the level of secrecy that we have. But this stuff was all done. When we agreed to stop nuclear testing, it had nothing to do with harm or anything else. We stopped nuclear testing because we just didn't need to do it anymore. And
you're missing the point of what I was saying there. You're missing the point of what I said. We didn't do that in isolation.
Yes. And we have the technology to replace that. We don't have the technology to replace it with gain of function.
When we stopped everyone else.
No, we didn't.
From setting bombs off?
That's not true. There's bombs that are set off all the time. We just don't do it. The United States is the only people who aren't setting bombs off, and that's because our research is decades ahead of everybody else on the planet.
Yeah,
right?
And
Russia
I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, North Korea doesn't count because they're in the Stone Age.
China doesn't count for shit.
China detonates bombs. They all do it. Absolutely every single nation still tests nuclear weapons, except for like the United States. I think, and maybe like Great Britain and Australia and some of these other things that are really just vassal states of the United States, right? We still test. Every country still tests nuclear weapons. They just do it underground. And they do it in gigantic facilities that are really well shielded, which is one of the reasons why the USGS has the seismometer network that they do, specifically because that was Department of Defense funding to figure out the megaton yield and the location of the megaton yield of the warhead.
Let me be pedantically specific. Let me be pedantically specific then. We don't find little islands that we don't like, plant a bomb up in the air on top of them, and set them off anymore.
Right, but we also don't turn around and we don't intentionally release viruses into public markets.
Yeah.
Right, that's not part of gain of function research. We don't do that.
Yeah, so again,
but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
Intention is being ascribed where it doesn't necessarily need to be there.
But we still do the research. We just do it in a safer system. All the countries do the research. They just do it in a safer protocol.
The end point here is that when we decided to stop gain of function in the U.S., We shouldn't have offloaded that shit to another country.
Oh, absolutely. But we
Period.
shouldn't have stopped doing it in the United States. That's the problem, right? Like, we should have kept on doing it. We should have just done it here. So that way China's not getting that money and doing it in a place that's less secure than we have.
If we're going to do it here anyway, we should have done it like we did nuclear work in the U.S. after we decided to stop doing shit with, like, the Manhattan Project. It was all done at government facilities.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
it's all done in the background, far away from any kind of public exposures.
Oh, that's not true at all. My lab's right in the middle of a
exposures.
City. My lab's in the middle of a city.
I get that.
Brookhaven's in the middle of is right outside New York.
Point being here, like nuclear explosions. Say the Trinity explosion wasn't done in the middle of, Kansas, in the middle of Kansas City.
Well, I mean, why would we detonate a bomb in the middle of a city, right? The reality is that we switched our nuclear research to a bunch of different things. I think the Nevada test site stopped doing the.
When we said we stopped doing that kind of research, what I said was what I was implying here was that we stopped setting off bombs on islands.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that we stopped setting
other ways, right?
We still.
I'm not saying we don't. I'm not saying that's the. Doing the gain of function bit is not the only way to do that research.
Well, I mean, you were saying that we should have stopped it because we can do it some other way, and I'm saying that we can't really gain a function. We can't really do it another way. We have gotten to the point for nuclear where we do it another way, but that came from decades of research. That, I mean, literally, that's my job, is to clean up a lot of these old experiments or the messes that the people left behind when they played hockey with uranium pucks. But because they spark. But the problem that you run into when you start talking about things like gain of function, we don't have the ability to do that theoretical component quite yet with biological systems. We're getting there, and maybe sometime in the next 20 to 60 years, we'll have computers that can completely and accurately capture that jump from, host species to humans, which is really the only link that we're interested in.
We do have the capacity to calculate a lot of the things that you're. So, one of the main reasons why quantum computers have gotten a lot of the funding they've gotten is to be able to do drugs research.
Yeah, kind of specifically for this kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the.
But they aren't there yet.
Ways.
They're really close.
They literally are there. No, they are there. That's the reason why D-Wave got the funding they got. They rent out their servers right now, their quantum computing setup. They rent that out right now. It is literally happening right now.
Well, there you go.
I'm not saying we could have replaced gain of function in 2018 with quantum computers, but we certainly need help. We sure as shit have the supercomputing power at this point. It's just really expensive.
So there's two components to that. I did not know that we actually had a quantum computer that was actually functionally and operational. I know IBM had something they were working on.
Yeah,
I did not know we had one
D-Wave is up in Canada, by the way. So D-Wave has been around for a while, and they rent out their compute system, or the online compute cluster that they run for this kind of stuff.
Even if
it is actually happening.
But again, the problem isn't just that we have the ability to do it once. We have to be able to do it on all things all the time. The program that I can run, right? I can run it on the world's shittiest computer, my little Fortran program. It is a pain in the ass, but that will do all of nuclear simulation, and it takes forever. Like, we have the supercomputers to do it, but when I say supercomputers, I mean like back in the day supercomputers.
So you talked about your gigabytes of neutron interactions.
Right, I've got
that library took time. So that kind of information is the point of things like, and again, this isn't where it all comes from, but things like protein folding at home. Those kinds of things build up a library of these protein folding interactions, and also these protein interactions. And enzyme coupling reactions.
It builds up potential interactions, right?
But they actually can find which ones are feasible, which ones aren't, and when it comes to these kind of things,
and then we have to sit there and we have to refine it.
But when it comes to
laboratory testing,
when it comes to S1 coupling to ACE2 in humans, we know how to do it.
Sure.
That's something that is well characterized.
And that's all well and good, but that doesn't
we don't need S1 coupling to ACE2 in a petri dish to know that it works.
I am sure that there was a variety of other things that they're doing and testing at the same time when it comes to gain of function. It is not solely this one bond, right? So that's the key thing. We have a whole host of different potential interactions with a whole host of different potential viruses. How those proteins will attach to those membranes and whether it'll actually work and whether it'll actually replicate successfully. And we are getting really, really close to literally being able to synthesize everything, but we aren't quite there yet. And so until we're there, I 100% support doing it. I 100% support doing this in a petri dish until such time as we have the technology to take it out of a petri dish. But we're not there yet, right? Maybe you can make the argument that there's a theoretical way that in this one case we did have that, but there's 1,000 test cases of potential things that need to be studied.
Here's what the issue is.
It's not like COVID is the only virus that we study.
Here's where the issue is. You don't need to make. So suppose that we had the bat virus.
Which bat virus?
Say we had the one that supposedly led to SARS-2.
The magic
one. Say we had that one in the wild. We had the patient zero here being a bat, and then that was found and brought to the lab, and they went ahead and did a DNA assay on the viral load on the bat, and they were able to get a good amount of cultured virus at the end, and they had a good idea of the DNA sequence, etc. You don't need to then take that same virus and then put a human interacting S1 on it to be able to take a adenovirus and then put the other proteins from the outside of the bat virus onto the adenovirus. You can make the vaccine effectively, which is what that's the way the J&J one is made.
So again,
you can make that without having to make the more dangerous one.
You are assuming entirely that the only gain-of-function research that they were doing was that sole bonding protein.
The point here was that you can do. It doesn't have to be.
No, I mean the point is that you have narrowed down the field of potential research opportunities to the specific use case of COVID. Right. No, but it doesn't matter, right?
Like, but it does matter because that's an example case of other things you can do.
No, there's a whole host of different manipulations that they're going to be doing as part of gain-of-function research.
The major utility of gain-of-function is to produce things like vaccines.
Absolutely,
do not have to make.
There's another purpose for gain-of-function research.
Yes,
there's
but
a
my
variety
point here is to elucidate that you do not have to make the more deadly virus to produce the vaccine against it. In this specific kind of case, this context.
But again,
it doesn't have to be humans at the end. It could be the bats at the end. It could be penguins. It could be fucking zoo animals, whatever.
Yes, again, yes and no. There are resource constraints here. While we can theoretically do all of this stuff by computers, right, with a variety of different technologies available to do that, we don't have enough computers to do this on every single virus. Right? Don't look at COVID
and you don't need to do it on every single...
being the only thing that we do this to. We do this to hundreds of thousands of different species of viruses, right? We do this hundreds of thousands of times to hundreds of thousands of species of viruses, and one of them happened to escape. And we can say, well, we didn't have to do it in one case.
We did not do hundreds of thousands of species of viruses like this.
Yes, we do. We'll do it to each and every single one of them. And the reason we'll do it it's because the methods that we have, it is cheaper to put it into a petri dish than to rent the server space on a computer. And it just so happens that this one is
with that many. It hasn't been done with that many.
Okay.
It just hasn't.
However many you want to put in there. There is more viruses that we can put into a petri dish and perform the study with than we can afford to sit there and put on a supercomputer. One of them just happened to escape, right?
This is what I was saying about a library of interactions.
You're coming at it from like the same perspective the creationists come at the friggin' evolution argument. They come at it going, the probability of human beings evolving here is so small. When in reality, the approach is, well, there's 1,000 billions of potential places that we could have evolved. We just happen to evolve here. So even though the probability of that event is small, when we actually take it across the whole number of potential places that we've done this.
You talked about gigabytes of neutron interactions. There are exabytes of these protein-protein interactions. And understandably so, obviously, these are not one-to-one comparisons here.
Yeah.
You probably have to add a few extra zeros onto the gigabytes in order to get to somewhere near the same scale appreciably. I get that part.
But those are just reference points.
Amount. I would argue that there's a comparable amount in terms of they might not be all equally accessible amongst members of the industry, but I would say there's a comparable amount of data.
Even if every single person had every single database, that doesn't change the fact that you're not going to be able to get the same results you're not going to be able to run all of those results with all of the viruses that you need to study to get the vaccines that you need to generate all off that one set of exabytes of data. That requires time and resources that not every facility is going to have, that not every U.S. facility is going to have, because it's extremely computationally intensive.
It's also not being done by everyone and their grandma. It's not being done by everyone.
That is compiling a database, which is fantastic.
Yeah, let me phrase this here. The gain-of-function research, let alone, say, just generating vaccines, is not being done by everyone. You don't have that many people that are going to... you have competition for resources, but you don't have the extreme of competition that you're implying here.
But you're not. It's not only gain of function research. Isn't the only thing that's competing for those research for the server time.
Yeah, right.
Like you have a host of different research.
You got to keep in mind that the supercomputer that was required to say beat the first chess master in chess, that has been vastly outstripped. And again, the problems here are comparable.
That doesnn't matter, right? The more complex the task...
Universities have supercompute clusters.
Absolutely.
Almost everyone does. And while they are resource competitive, this is one of those places that gets tapped in by grants from these places that want to do the kind of research, like pharma companies.
Again, if I can sit there and I can perform the research 1,000 times at the same cost with Petri dishes as one run on a supercomputer, most people are going to go to the Petri dishes, right?
But it's not the same cost.
It's great to know that there are other alternatives, and we should employ them. But there's 1,000 other things that we have to run on those computers.
When it comes to business, you have to factor in risk, and the actuarial risk, as you can see right now, is in the trillions.
First off, it wouldn't have been that high had states not locked on, but that's not here nor there.
Yeah,
yes,
but it's not just
risk
the U.S.,
is factored
is it?
in. But risk also has a probability associated with it. And if you take all of the appropriate precautions, that risk associated with those trillions of dollars in damage goes virtually to zero. And by the way, there's a risk and costs and actuarial stuff that goes on with every single thing that we run on a supercomputer. And that's the bottom line. This is all taken into account in the overall economy of science, right? Like this is what happens. We just can't turn around and be like, oh yeah, well, just because we have a better way of doing things all the time means that's the only way we should do it. No, we need to sit there.
What I'm saying is that the other way that might have a higher risk of severe damage than the other way.
Sure, and that's one. Absolutely, right? There's more of a risk in putting it in a Petri dish.
This is why we changed from setting off bombs to doing shit on a computer.
No, we changed from setting off bombs to doing shit on a computer.
Aside from some of the other political shit that I'm not going to get into here.
I swear to God, it has nothing to do with politics. It is because by moving that shit to a computer, there is no way anybody knows what our nuclear capabilities are.
That sounds like a political reason to me.
That is not a political reason. That is a
between countries. That absolutely is.
That's a political reason, but
not a political reason is selling it, right?
Campaign strategy reason. Not a campaign strategy reason or like, getting reelected reason or any of that kind of bullshit.
It's a national defense reason.
As a weapon, it is a tool of politics in and of itself, so anything related thereto is going to be also.
Setting off bombs also wasn't looking very good.
I mean,
I
that's
mean, yeah,
true,
optics and all that
but
shit aside.
the optics. So
Oh,
the
again,
optics were
parsing
what
all
they
that
were,
later.
right?
Parsing all that later, my
Great.
point here was that
I
computers were
think it
cheaper
was
and easier,
great that we
safer, and more
dropped it
effective.
on that whatever that friggin' Greenpeace ship was. I think that was a fantastic demonstration of American willpower. And if we actually had the balls to do something like that today, China would be fucking afraid of us still. But
Yes.
Well, I
instead, we
think we should
kowtowed
do
to the
is,
hippies. But that's neither here nor there. The reason that we moved it is solely for strategic reasons. We had the ability by moving it
I'm saying
internally.
that for strategic
Everybody else
reasons, we
started
shouldn't.
getting to the point where they could detect it and they could calculate it and
Yeah.
they could know what our yields were, and then they could
And
from
here's the thing
that.
I would say today: for strategic reasons, we should not have. Again, at this point, I've gotten to the point where I really don't give a shit why we stopped it anymore. If we stopped the gain of function research, we should never have allowed anyone else to continue doing it.
Absolutely.
At least not in the open.
But we still,
especially not by funding it.
I entirely agree with you. If you limit your statement to gain of function should not have been done elsewhere but the United States, I agree with you. If you say we shouldn't have done gain of function research at all, yeah, but you were saying we shouldn't have done it earlier because of all these reasons, and I disagree. Yeah, well, I disagree. Your opinion's wrong.
Well, this is an agree to disagree kind of thing because you both got your opinions, and I actually disagree with both of you to degrees on that, but it's not really worth getting into the weeds over.
Weeds.
Indeed.
I mean, if you're gonna come at us, if you start coming at us with the germ theory is wrong, I'm gonna have to start throwing things.
Oh Jesus, no, that's retarded.
You know what? I think Craig and I would agree on something.
Dude, I've seen the conversations that go on about that, and it's just I'm sitting there. It's morbidly fascinating for how stupid it appears to me.
Oh yeah, no, it's like flat Earth, but for fucking biology.
Germ theory is wrong. Even Hammond had it wrong. It's like, oh god, okay.
Well.
Yeah, no, that's exasperating.
I have not see I have the one thing that is absolutely fantastic about working at a secure facility where I don't get to have my phone all day long, aside from not having to see whatever Craig posts on Twitter, right, which is always deeply offensive to my fragile sensibilities and my safe space, right? On top of that bonus that is worth all of the pay in the world. I actually am very largely restricted from encountering the stupid corner of the internet. Like, I actually have to go out of my way to find really dumb people. And plus, I started muting all the hardcore Democrats, and so that made my Twitter. I feel bad because I used to
way simpler to see.
It is. Well, it used to be when I first joined Twitter, because I'm a moderate, right? Back in 2014, with the whole Gamergate thing, they were still reasonable. You could still talk to the social justice warriors. I had conversations with Randy Harper and the rest of them. And, I do understand that Randy Harper felt, shitty because the Gamergate people were kind of shitty to her. The blue whale comments and all that.
Well, there was the whole thing where she snorted meth off a toilet seat and gave the illegitimate child to her grandparents or whatever. There's some things about her that were vile.
I'm not disagreeing that there are negative personality characteristics in the opposing side.
But I can also see how she might take a little bit of offense to the weight issues.
Yeah, I can too.
I'm just giving that, helping set the scale for that.
There is
all the shit that there is to point out about your life. You're upset about your weight. All right.
Well, I think the key thing there when we're dealing with her and the whole entire thing is, or going back to my core point, 2014, the left was actually very reasonable. Well, I don't want to call them reasonable. They still had crazy opinions, but they were willing to talk to you.
It is to say they were more approachable, and they were more human.
I would not say the left in that case. I would say, obviously in the context of the U.S., it's aligned more with the left, but I would say liberals instead of left.
I would say
I would
I
actually
would say left.
go the opposite. I would say the left as opposed to
Yeah.
liberals.
Yeah, I would, because I
But
had
Because
prior to
to
the
be
Blockbot
liberal
going out.
now, I mean, you are not on the left in any sort of traditional sense.
Liberal lost its classic interpretation in the 80s. So in the modern interpretation of liberal, I would say liberals, which
As
is
a
kind
colloquialism, I'll agree with you, but as a
like
purely technical term, I'll disagree.
it's
Wait,
kind of
that was
it's
actually
around the halfway point between the two on the plot. You know, on the standard on that political map.
whatever we call them. If you go back to 2014, I mean, even dealing with social justice warriors, they weren't as bad as they are today, right? Like you could still
That's
have
Tumblr
a conversation.
wasn't broken yet.
I just, what happened?
Tumblr was the perfect containment board, and they broke it and flooded the rest of the world with the insanity that was already slowly leaking out of it.
So
And
I'm
now it's
guessing.
stuck
I'm
everywhere.
guessing. So I just envision a pencil dick EPA guy showing up to the containment facility and saying he wants to shut it down.
Well, no,
And
they sold Tumblr. In order to sell Tumblr, they banned all porn, which caused all the Tumblrinas who were very concerned about their pronouns, but definitely needed to see that naked guy while talking about objectification, but only of women, and only if they identify as women. Just let your mind wander on that kind of mess. They suddenly didn't have half the reason for staying there, and so they all left in protest. And Tumblr being LiveJournal 2.0 was already a fucking nutty place to begin with. And then they all showed up at Twitter and Instagram and all other crap, where they used to just be shunned out of hand, and they used to have their safe space to crawl back to where everyone tells them they're beautiful. And now they can't do that anymore, so instead they take it out on you and get you kicked off of the various websites.
Well, I mean, you go back to 2014, and you could. I know that we still encountered people from Tumblr on Twitter.
Oh yeah, but they would go back to Tumblr. They can't do that anymore.
Got it. So they, even though they would make a little voyage to Twitter.
Well, what would happen is if they ever did something so stupid to get on 4chan's radar, they would flood them with gore posts. And then they would all cry. Yeah, then they would all cry, and then 4chan would laugh, the rest of the planet would laugh, and then they would sulk away from everyone's view. Now that doesn't happen. Now they get you canceled because they can.
Yeah, those were the days of the best gatekeeping.
Well, that was when Twitter was actually the free speech wing of the free speech party, right?
Oh, indeed it was.
Yeah, that was 2000. That was 2000. 2012 was when that was. 2014, you could still argue that point, but 2015 it was gone.
It was literally, so nobody was siloed, right? And I had about half of my Twitter followers from the right and about half of my Twitter followers from the left, right? I had decent interactions with both sides of the issue. I would talk to the people who were in the other side of the Gamergate camp and be like, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you provide me an example? Can you show me, when they're sitting there and saying it's a giant coordinated harassment campaign? Because I knew what my feed was, right? My feed didn't have any of this stuff that they claimed was there.
Yeah.
Right? The worst was a whole bunch of people, you'd see Anita Sarkeesian sit there and post something crazy, and then a whole bunch of people respond to it, and then she'd go and cry about the fact that people responded to her asinine fucking statement.
I had opinions, and they're supposed to be sacrosanct.
And then what was it? I spend 30 minutes deciding whether I want to send out and this was back when it was 140 characters. I spend 30 minutes evaluating the 140 characters that I'm about to send out every day. So it wasn't the same thing, but back then it was a lot easier to deal with these people.
Well, indeed, you could be honest with people.
It was that fucking Blockbot, man. That's what killed it. That's what killed the whole internet.
That's not it. But that's a symptom. That's like saying Trump is the thing that caused it. But that's.
What were you saying, Craig? I can't hear you.
Can't do that. I said I laughed so hard getting onto that. The Blockbot.
I mean, it went out so quick, overnight.
It was the funniest fucking shit. Hold on a second. I have to figure out what my list count is today.
Oh man, I wouldn't even know how many I'm on by now.
Oh, it's
I'll give you away in a second.
Yeah, now that they don't. I know
I
how
was
many
on
lists
92
I'm on.
the last time I checked.
Oh man, I was on a lot of block lists, like over 1,000, I think. Which is,
Wow.
I could be wrong, but
You're fucking mellow. Like, how the hell did you get on a block list?
it's kind of astounding. I think it's because I still actively engage with some of those people.
Ah.
And I mean,
See, like I said,
not necessarily in a bad way either. Like, I actually still have some friends that are legitimately far left. But
when I
not
was
many. Not many. Most of them
There
have
it is.
fled with
got it.
great haste.
Like 2015 was when I actually started going on site and no longer had access to my phone. Right? So 2014 from June of 2014 until April of 2015, I had nothing to do. Right? So my clearance hadn't come in, but they were paying me because otherwise, telling you to wait 9 months while they wait to process your paperwork is not how most people are going to keep their job. So they petitioned, and I actually because like with the what was it that first data breach.
Yeah.
So the first data breach and then the second data breach.
Oh, yeah.
Those kicked out the timelines on getting your clearance so long that they were able to just pay people to sit in an office. And that's what I did. So from 2014 all the way up to 2015, I just had from June to like that. And the block bot went out in September, October, something like that. So I had 4 months where I had nothing to do but sit there and write, nice, carefully thought out, typo ridden Twitter posts. And I did very well. And then all of a sudden, Blockbot went off, and I went into, Never Never Land, and never had the time to go cultivate a friendship with somebody on the left again. And now I just have so little time that once I realize they're a moron, I just mute them.
Yeah,
Well,
there's.
you see, if you limit your lefty friends to those who aren't morons, and actually, for one thing, it makes very few of them, which is kind of sad.
Yes.
It really is.
For another thing,
it really
does,
is because
it brings you in a good, decent perspective outside of your context.
Well, and
but
that's
it's hard to find
kind
people
of
like
the thing.
that.
It really is. It really is. It's very tough because I have a couple rules. If you're dishonest, you're muted, right? If I catch and so anybody who sits there and wants to talk about how cheap solar is and doesn't honestly or talk about nuclear waste, they're not being honest. Most of the climate change stuff, while those people aren't really being honest. You get somebody who would be like, solar energy is free, and you're like, all right, you get muted.
Yeah.
Let's see. I am on 172 blacklist total.
Oh, bravo.
Can you check me?
You have to check yourself.
Oh, I don't want to check my privilege.
You have to go at unblock_list, and then
yeah, I know.
What block lists, and then that's the whole tweet, and then it'll get back to you from the unblocker.
But it really is sad where we are as a nation.
Oh, speaking of that, and as a matter of fact, speaking specifically about the data breach, did you see what I linked here about the National Guard and the simulated cyber attack that was just done?
That looked interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it was interesting if we hadn't been playing around with that for all of June and May. It's already on the docket of things that we thanks U.S. military for simulating what's already happened.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
Yeah, good job, guys.
Let's try that again. Is I think what happened there.
Well, their findings were that it would be bad.
No shit, right?
Well, I don't know if it would be in terms of long-term stuff. Short-term, I think it'd be bad. Like I would.
Short-term is the more important problem there.
Yes, and no.
In the long
right?
term, you can always replace a computer.
Well, I think at the end of the day, this would be all part of like going to war with China, right? And this would be the stage one of the war between the two.
Well, if that happens, you know what would happen? You know what happened if that happened, right? We would cut the cables to their country.
Yep.
They would no longer have the fat pipeline to get into our internet infrastructure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of surprised, given the Trans-Pacific, or what? I think we got a transatlantic and a Trans-Pacific cable.
We
I
have
believe
multiple
so.
cables across both.
I thought we only had one major data cable.
No.
I know we
Well,
had a couple
there's-
phone lines.
But I thought we only had
There's
one
a-
major data cable.
So there's one that goes through China. So actually, I think you might remember a number of years ago, or I can't remember how recently it was, but about 15% of the internet went through this one cable, and there was an outage along the border, and in China,
Yeah.
or along some border in China, and then the internet was just like slow for a day, because things had to route around it.
Really?
But like, yeah, there's one of the big trunks goes through China, and it's, I think that's the one that's tapped into by Pakistan, who I think that whoever's in charge of that junction should go walk up to it with a fireman hatchet and cut off their ability to use the internet and phone lines, because all those annoying robocalls you get come out of Karachi, if you didn't know.
Huh.
I did not know that.
Well,
All
then
I know
there
is
you go.
that, like,
in fact, the Canadian broadcast company, the CBC up there, the Canadian BBC,
yep.
they actually went. They had a person they put over there in Karachi. They had them go into one of those places and join up with the robocall and phone call scam shit, and then they brought a tape to the CBC, the Canadian intelligence or police, whatever the fuck it was. I think it was just police. They brought a tape to him and said, or DVD or whatever, what have you, and said, here's this, and why can't you do anything about this? Because with certain scams, they actually do show up on location. They had like duct cleaning services that they were selling, and so in that instance specifically, they said, why aren't you going after these people when they just show up, stand around for a few hours, and leave?
Yeah.
They don't actually clean the ducts.
Oh, so there's
They're
actually
just taking
people that are
advantage of old
showing
people.
up to this that are doing the scam?
So the same way that you hear about all those spam emails, the Nigerian princes and shit.
Yeah, sure.
There are actually, when someone actually responds to those in earnest and they get caught in the wrong place, wrong time, someone will notice and they will engage them and get to the point where they have an in-person meeting and take their money, amicably at the time too. Where they'll con people like that, and it's sad because you see, and they found a way to do it at a smaller scale. Just have someone already in the country and go and stand around and do nothing and sell them a service they don't need that isn't performed. And so they absolutely could arrest people in Canada.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think
That's,
they might have finally caught on to some of that, but
that's,
that was one of the
kinda
major
dirty.
ones.
Well, it's pretty. I am so glad that wherever the fuck those calls come from, that they are so concerned about my car's extended warranty, because
Right.
that
So the
shit
way they do it
is-
now is they try to get you to purchase electronic gift cards and then give them the codes, or give them the cash by entering the codes for them, and then having it transferred to their account. So they get the cash value of the gift card and they get to use it.
So that being said, let me just break in here and say, if there is anyone who is hearing the sound of my voice right now, and anyone calls you about anything at all, and says that the way that it must be handled is through any kind of gift card or money card, it is a scam. Period. If you didn't know this
if I
already,
call you, it's not a scam. It's not a scam at all if Steve calls you. Just give Steve your money.
so like I was saying, if that happens, it is absolutely a scam, and take the person to be a scammer. Anyway, please
You
continue.
see, Steve, it wouldn't be you using your voice. That's the downside.
Yeah, there will actually be lots of Steves that will call
you
you.
using your voice. I could see how you'd want the gift cards, but unfortunately, you would not get the gift cards.
No, all
'Cause
kinds
they
of
have no
Steves
idea your
call.
voice
You wanna know what the craziest stuff is, right? So there's two parts of this. My phone is from New Hampshire, so that's where my phone number is from. So I feel really bad for my bank. They had to get a hold of me, and I'm sure they were calling me, and that would just be the second call of the day of the New Hampshire numbers that was calling me. And I don't live anywhere in New Hampshire, so I know every New Hampshire number has something to do with my extended warranty, or
Right.
the IRS is doing something or other, or whatever the fuck it is. And I get one
So
call
the
a
re-
day.
So
One
the
call
reason
every
why you
single
cut
day.
off the reason you cut off their internet trunk is because they're using VoIP. So they're spoofing the caller
yeah.
ID. You know, they're not freakers over there. They're just using they're using generic software on a computer and doing VoIP calls. So
that
so
was
they're
that was the point I wanted to get to, right?
yeah.
At some point, they spoofed my wife's phone number,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they actually called me using my wife's phone number, and they left no message, and they like did it repeatedly too. So it was really weird. I got like four missed calls from her for that day,
Huh.
and I couldn't figure it out. And at some point, one of them got really creative and actually sent something for my local area code, and it was from the lab. Right, so there's a certain series of numbers. So I ended up calling them from the lab, or calling the lab back and calling the person saying, "You just called me." He's like, "Nope."
Oh, wow.
Right?
I have called one of these back, actually. The number and the person's like, I didn't call you at all. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, I had some poor old lady give me a call before, and I had to explain to her what was going on, and she was upset and I was upset. But at the end of it, she had a nice day. But yeah, so like I said, a fucking fire hatchet. There shouldn't be like some unplugged connector that can be plugged back in. I think that we should strip mine their cable for the copper and leave them fucked without it.
We should send the finest of our crackheads in there to get every single bit of salvageable metal. I mean, that would be a great community service project. Am I wrong?
Or, you just work with Australia and say, "Oh, sorry, guys. I don't know when your food's going to come in. It's just not on the... Your Mushu pork is going to have to wait a few months."
I couldn't say. I don't know too well about Aussies. Well, anyway, in regards to this particular cyber attack, they expected it went poorly. I mean, their results were as you would imagine. Everything that went bad in our most recent times of everything going bad, well, yeah, their exercises revealed that they're utterly incompetent, largely.
Oh, yeah. No, they're not incompetent. They're amazingly competent. It's really sad, too, because you would think that the United States, of all of the things that the United States should be investing in, aside from actual military hardware, would be cybersecurity, considering this is the shit that we did back in the 90s to shut down Iran and Pakistan and whoever else was just pissing us off. We had a whole computer program that we uploaded to, I think it was Iran's nuclear infrastructure, and we just turned it off. We just turned every single one of their computers
you mean
off.
Stuxnet?
Yeah.
Stuxnet. Yeah, that was developed. That was hush hush under the rug, developed by Israelis.
Yeah.
For the U.S., of course. Why not?
Yeah.
Here's a map. Here's a map of the as of 2015 internet backbone. This is the Tier 1 ISP connectivity map.
Okay, so there's actually rather a few backbone cables.
They're near China, but there's one that definitely goes like through China into Russia, over into Europe. So we basically had to route around that through the cable through India. For the people that were in like Australia, they had a really crappy internet day because they didn't have the ability to also route through the Chinese pipeline via Japan. So if they wanted to communicate with Europe, it was only through the India trunk, or going the other way around the world and having a longer delay. And it's it's communication at the speed of light for the fibers and all, but it's speed of light in glass, not in air or in a vacuum.
And you've also got your latency for processing and all that too.
And that's the other thing. So many more connectivity nodes between Australia, the US, then Europe, than Australia through the India line directly into Europe. Or say through the China-Russia line. So there's only so much bandwidth that you can get into a fiber trunk. And, believe it or not, we actually do push limits sometimes. So you have to kind of get in line. There's these lines are quite old at this point. In terms of technology. In terms of technology, for
that's the thing
internet,
that
old.
really surprises me is, again, going back to like things that the United States has utterly failed to do. I am really surprised that the United States has decided to not centralize their own network and operate via satellite, right? For most of our links to the rest of the world.
Satellite's not like so. Satellite is it's not as reliable or fast.
Yeah, it's basically satellite isn't quite there yet for the way the world needs to work right now.
Look, I entirely understand that.
It's also so you're not getting the need to include additional parity bits to do error correction and on top of that the latency. Then add in the variability of weather patterns. Yeah.
But it also means that the signal is harder to intercept.
Oh no, that's fair. And I mean, there's a reason why when an operative is in the field, they have a satellite phone and not a regular phone.
Yeah, mission critical is still possible to do via satellite, but it's not anywhere near cost effective or
and the fidelity isn't there.
If it was up to me, right? I mean, I agree. All of these things are problems with satellite transmission. Yeah. But the only time that becomes an issue is cross-country transmission, because I would be perfectly okay with network cables within the United States, but the boundary and the interface, right, cut off at the borders. So instead of having China,
is too high.
Yeah, the demands on that are just I mean, maybe once the full Starlink system's up, it might be a feasible thing.
Not going to be anywhere close enough.
You don't think so?
It's the data density you get on a fiber bundle is way, way higher than what you get through a single satellite node, let alone even a swarm, because you have thousands of lines inside of a bundle, and you have multiple bundles and a cable. Like these things are as thin as a human hair, and you have cables that are like a foot or two thick that you can run. You would need so many, like, I'm not saying you couldn't put them up there, but like you would need so many satellites.
Well, I mean, you could either do that.
It's unfeasible.
Then maybe the next step will be quantum entanglement.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the fun thing is was it last year or the year before where China published their ability to create entangled pairs and get them with reasonable enough bandwidth up to a satellite directly above country.
Yep. Well,
basically, that was a big middle finger to the U.S. saying, by the way, we can do it too. You didn't see that coming here as
yeah, because the United States has had that ability for a little while, which, by the way, is how for those listening, when we actually do go out and take the moon and take Mars, that is going to be the route of communication, because it's instantaneous transfer from anywhere, or near instantaneous transfer from
speed
anywhere.
Of light.
It's speed of light. It's not any faster. And so that's actually going to be the main interesting thing about. So the moon's going to be pretty easy.
It is actually not. Unfortunately, no, it is actually
information.
Really?
So you need to know the outcome of one. You need to know the outcome at one end, in order to know the outcome on your end. And so that means you need to have that information transmitted to you. So while you can. While you can keep things secret on either side, the actual transmission of the information that allows you to know the entanglement state of the other side is sent at the speed of light.
Really? I was under the impression that they could design such a system wherein they just reverse the spin of the electron in a paired in a paired quantum.
Now we might get there.
So what you do is you actually end up entangling. Two entangled states, and that's what allows you to do things like send a secret across space. But you need two entangled pairs to do that, And so what you do with the photons is you entangle them via the same lasing medium, and you can get the signal at the one end and the signal at the other end, and then send the result of the spin state for one of the photons across. And as long as you know like what the entangled state is at the beginning, you don't have to know the individual photon states in order to know the entangled state on the other end. But that still allows you to deduce which photon, because you can send them at different times, which photon was which in the entangled pairs. And so that means you can send secret messages that way, and you can also have the reliability of no man-in-the-middle attacks without destroying the entangled state. So they've been able to do that.
And I know that I was just under the impression, like, if it was me designing such a system, right? And this is, you know the states that it can be in, right?
Right.
And at least my the way I thought it would work is you would entangle the electrons, spin up, spin down, and so then you'd be able to alter the spin on one, which would transmit, and that alters the other instantaneously, right? That's
so
a really cool thing.
And then
you could just operate the switching of the electrons.
That's the part where it fails. It's post hoc. It's post hoc in the way that it's so the spin up, spin down is relative to the frame of the operator, but there is an absolute reference it can do. You know the relative orientation of everybody involved, then you have spin up and spin down, you can tell. The thing is, we just don't know which one is up or down until we've measured one of them, and then we know both.
We can't influence knowledge, which one's up or down?
Right. So here's the thing. While you might have on your end, having measured something already, the foreknowledge of which way it will be on the other end, they don't know which way it will be until you tell them, or they measure it. So it's a post hoc thing. Like it's purely a statistical phenomenon. You know, it happens to be right, generally speaking, but it is a statistical thing. It's an outcome. It's a way of limiting the possible states of something. In this case, for a single pair scenario, to an on or an off, to only one of two outcomes, and you know, given one, what the other one has to be. So it's a way of having extra information on your end, but the other end isn't going to know anything until you tell them, or until they learn it themselves.
I just thought that we could actually encode the quantum state. And if we could
wish
encode
the
the quantum state, then we could turn around and do that. That was what I was under the impression that we had the ability to do, was to physically change the quantum.
Theoretically, and it would be, I'm not even sure like how possible it would be, but theoretically, there might be such a contrived scenario where you could have a sufficient amount, and again, it all has to be kind of post hoc here, but you could have a sufficient amount of states entangled across a span, simultaneously entangled with an additional state, which is used as kind of like the trigger for what the final outcome pattern has to be. You know, thus encoding the actual data that was transmitted. But theoretically, that could be transmitted by a single particle carrying the remainder of that entanglement state. So, you know, maybe at the end of a long day, having already sent off all of the photons for the day, you might be able to send off the last one that allows Earth to understand all the gobbledygook Mars just sent. But you have to, you know, it's the same exact practical problem at the end, which was your bandwidth is fundamentally limited to the ability to communicate at the speed of light across the solar system.
Right.
You know, you got, what, 40 minutes?
So in order to do this, and again, like I said, I was anticipating that. I thought we were operating these things at damn near 0 Kelvin. And at damn near 0 Kelvin, you can violate most of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Right.
and if you can violate most of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, then if you know where it is, because it hasn't moved at all in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, it could, but it hasn't.
You know where it's gonna go, because it's not going anywhere anytime.
So it sadly it doesn't work out where you can do things instantaneously like that. The thing that happens, the spooky action at a distance, is the fact that without having to influence the other particle, it's already known what state it's going to be in, just not at the location of that particle, only at your location where you measured it. So you can tell the other side, here's what your particle looks like, and then surprise them when they go and measure it, and they go, "Aga, it's actually the same. What happened?" That's the spooky part, is being able to tell someone what the particle is doing before they look at it.
Now that said, there probably is more to this and more that can be done with it.
I mean, there are other things that can be done with it, but again, the fundamental principle here at play is that you cannot transmit the information faster than the speed of light.
Well, so you can't you can transmit the information faster than the speed of light. You can't transmit.
But you won't be able to understand it.
The encryption faster than the speed of light.
So if you think of entanglement as a form of encryption, then sure.
Right.
So you'd still have to tell the other side of your channel the entanglement state on your end in order for them to understand the state that they have on their end. Right. And the more particles you add into the mix, the crazier that gets as a factorial function. So it goes faster than exponential.
But I thought spooky action at a distance, right? If we entangle two particles, that also means that we can switch the spin on one. If we were able to control that it would switch the spin on the other. Isn't that correct?
How do you know that that the spin has switched?
Well, you'd have to have both sides measuring at the same time, right?
How do you know that they're measuring at the same time?
I mean, this would be a protocol, right? So you set up a protocol that says perpetual monitoring, right? Perpetual monitoring.
Say you could assume perpetual monitoring, periodic monitoring, all synced up.
Right. Then you fire your laser, pew 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 pew. Right. You make your little laser sounds with your mouse.
Your laser carries an entanglement state to it as well.
Right. But that'll be what allows us to change the spin on the electron.
Right.
Which would automatically allow the other side to read the spin and the changes in the spin.
That induces decoherence. Every time, so my PChem 2 professor, my quantum chem professor, had a great analogy for this. When you're probing a particle to determine spin states, it's not like you open a door, look inside, and see it, and then close the door, or like you walk up and you just kind of poke it. It's like walking around a dark room with a big metal baseball bat, swinging it around into things, and then when you suddenly hear the yowl of a dead cat, you found them. So, it becomes very much entangled with the state you're measuring, and that induces decoherence because the laboratory frame is in effect a mess of a spin state, and you're trying to prevent anything from talking to your sample from your environment, the laboratory frame, and that exists on both sides. So the reason why you'd want to have an entangled pair like that and then transmit the information you got from your end is that on the other end they don't have to interact with their spin state or their entanglement state in order to manipulate it. And again, the information does not transmit faster than the speed of light between the two ends of that channel.
Yep.
So unfortunately, you can't just manipulate your end, have them know it's happening, and then see their end and know it worked, because that then entangles back to the rest of the universe. It's decoherence.
Right. So basically, the more we manipulate the object, the less likely it is to be entangled.
Quite quickly.
Essentially, yes. Got it.
Again, they might be still entangled, but they're entangled with everything else.
You know what that means? That means that the fridge that we keep this shit in is just not cold enough.
There you go.
What that means.
I like that. That's practical thinking.
Right? It's no. Here's the thing. It's not that the fridge isn't cold enough. It's not big enough. Everybody needs to be inside the fridge.
Well,
there you go.
Then it'd be a very warm fridge. But maybe if we put all of the social justice warriors in a quantum refrigerator, then we could take a measurement of their unified state. And
their unified state evolves on a continuing basis. Worse yet, they'd probably end up proving nonlinear pilot
but not
theory.
At 0 Kelvin. It doesn't.
Yeah, man, would they be blue in the face. All right.
They would be very blue.
That would definitely stop their activity.
They would be blue. Their hair would be blue. It would be the natural... The Smurfs would be happy in their new state of existence.
Oh, man. Fucking Smurfs.
Yep.
There would certainly be no more acceleration from them then. But yes, no, I understand. You've got to probably get out of here, so...
I was sitting there thinking this back in about 45 minutes ago, and I was
Right.
like, fuck it, we're not going to be on for more than another 5 minutes.
Oops. Oh yeah,
Oh,
we were.
come on now. We got to do, I'm kind of happy with this whole conversation. Because as much as I love COVID, boys, and politics,
Right.
fuck it. Let's talk about the fun shit for once. Like, we actually got to talk about fun things.
Well, the world
Tired of
has
Biden.
been.
And Biden's just tired.
Oh, tremendously. Tremendously.
Has he called a lid on tomorrow yet?
Well, they say it's always
guess
5
a lid
o'clock
on today.
somewhere, and I mean, he calls a lid at 1 p.m. So I'd say probably.
Sigh.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So
I
here's
do
a
have.
final thought. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, actually, I have a final article. If you guys want to just scroll up
Oh.
just a little bit and show ideas, that
It's gonna be the election.
no.
The election counts in New York City. No, not where they
no! I mean, if you'd like to discuss that, there were 135,000
135,000
mysteriously
Quotes.
appearing votes. Yes, that's true.
They were quote test votes.
Yep. The
I'm guessing they all
Democrats.
voted for
The
one
Democrats.
candidate too, huh?
It was the difference between a test vote and ballot stuffing is that a test vote is supposed to be deleted before the system goes live, whereas a stuffed ballot is supposed to stay in the system after it goes live.
Also, a test vote might be for hairy-ass McGee, not for one of the two fucking candidates.
Yeah,
but
you'd think
The
that.
problem that you're going to have, right, is if it logged those test votes, it's still going to be the same fucking bubbles, right? It's going to be the same bubbles, and the machine doesn't know whether it's hairy-ass McGee or whether it's somebody else. It's just going to report whose bubble was where.
That's true. That's true. But then when you find out those bubbles were not labeled Harry Ass McGee and Johnny
Yeah, when you do a
Neckbones,
manual recount.
and then you notice that actually they were labeled for who they really shouldn't have been. That's when things get spooky.
Well, that's
Talking about
that's gonna be
spooky
the
action at a
question
distance.
is,
Yeah, we'll be real curious
what
to
did
see.
they load those votes as? If it was 50-50, no big deal, right?
I mean,
Well, the implication so
If
far
it
is
was
that it was
60-40,
not
we have a
anywhere
small
near
problem.
50-50.
Well, I
see, you have to
I
ask.
haven't seen any of the actual results as to what was on the preloaded ballots.
Nor I, and I would not be surprised, honestly, if they bury that.
I'm sure
I
it
would
will.
be very curious.
That is going to go the same way as the whole Georgia counting after hours thing went, where they come out and they say, "Oh, nope, it wasn't a big deal.
Well,
don't worry
they
about
had
it.
a
Don't look
toilet
at
that
it. Don't talk to
overflowed,
it."
and
And it was a pipe that ruptured, and then everybody had to go home except at 3 a.m. when everyone who was done counting finally got the next batch.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then the trucks rolled up, and
Yeah. So I mean, and at the end of the day, I know that we've talked it extensively. Well, actually, we haven't really visited the whole election fraud thing. in a
Oh
long
no,
time.
there's so much there, but yeah, no, we've touched on it here and there, which is kind of how I like
we
to
have.
handle it.
Maybe a topic for next week.
It might be.
We
It
can
might
bring
be.
back.
But I mean, hopefully we'll have the Arizona audit stuff out and all the other
Oh,
stuff. and we
indeed,
can,
yeah,
talk
they actually
about it,
apparently
but
just finished yesterday.
Oh,
But
good. That means they
it's-
can finally shut up and put up, right?
one of the problems that we had is that what Craig and I both agreed to is pretty much Craig and I as engineers come in and we see data a very specific way, right? And we might draw different inferences from that data as is noted from our opinions, but we both identify which forms of data we find to be acceptable analyses and which ones we don't. And we talked about that, is that there were some analyses that showed anomalous conditions, and we were both in agreement as to what those were. And there was also shit that people just basically pulled out of their ass, and we both agreed to what those were. So when we start talking about this 135,000 ballots thing or the Georgia thing, that stuff was where it was starting to look fishy. I'm actually, catching the 135,000 ballots, that is the exact way in which you could easily load something. And this is what I've got a kid at work who's like, oh yeah, they stuffed the ballots, they did all this other shit. I'm like, no. If it was me and I had to sit there and fake an election, this is the kind of stuff that I would do.
Yeah, but you're
Like,
smart.
you don't. you don't have to you want to have the minimum number of ways in which it can be detected
But
as is
you're
possible.
smart.
You can say that.
By
But I
comparison to the
assume-
people that were doing this fucking bullshit,
All right,
brother,
I-
you're
I
a
think
goddamn
example-
you are a shining
yeah.
son of a genius compared to the idiots that pulled off this
So
fucking heist.
So, Steve, let's just take the example of Mark Elias, the guy who was convinced, at least in public, that machines were infallible, right up until the point where a Democrat was losing it. What was it? The 17th, whatever the fucking
New
district
York.
was up in New
Yeah.
York.
Is this one of those Twitter idiots that I don't pay attention to?
Well, he's not just that.
No,
he's
he's
also
an
like one of the
he
main
is an
Democrat
idiot. But
lawyers.
he just doesn't happen to be specifically a Twitter idiot.
He's one of the main Democrat lawyers. So he
He's an IRL
was-
idiot.
He was one of the people who was totally convinced that Russia hacked the election last time. That there was election fraud because of the machines back when it affected Trump winning in 2016, and then last year he was shouting up and down the internet that machines are infallible. It's all a lie. It's all just an attempt to get people to not believe in the machines. It's just shit stirring. Trump's obviously controlled by Russia, blah, 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 blah. And then right after the the state elections were over, suddenly the tune changed as soon as the Democrat up in New York decided to contest the loss.
Oh yeah,
that
the
they
count
found.
because it was such a tight
I'm sorry, to
margin.
contest
Yeah.
the count. And so what happened was in court, the judge ended up excoriating the county for their shitty handling of things and how wrecked the data was effectively. And it reversed the win. The Democrat lost. They thought they won. Turns out that with the recount and so on, they lost. And so Mark Elias was up there in fucking court arguing that machines are fallible, and because the machines didn't report things correctly, all the hand counts didn't count somehow. And somehow basically they needed to somehow redo things and make it somehow. Democrat wins.
I get that, but you know what? The point is that if we
Just
want to
pointing out, like, this
presume
is
that
supposed
there
to be
was
one-
a
this is supposed to be the-
conspiracy,
This is supposed to be the sharpest lawyer in the Democrat Party. All right. This is the guy they called to come in.
Yeah, this
the
is
one who's
their
supposed to be
guy.
there
This
who's
is
supposed to
their
win it for him.
this is their fixer, the problem solver.
This is the guy who's supposed to show up in court and make all the problems go away. And he couldn't do shit about it because he had sat there for forever spinning this yarn, and then of course it comes back to bite him in the ass.
He's
And
the
what
same
happens?
kind of
Oh,
guy
a
that
whole
knows
lot of other
about
shit
shoulder
happened,
things
too.
that go up. Oh, but on this specific point, I do want to make a point. The machines from the company whose name I'm not going to say have been completely decertified in Arizona now and cannot be
Really?
used. Yes.
$6 million worth of equipment, and it's because the equipment has been handed over to a private investigation firm. So the forensics team that's doing the work, because it's not been in the chain of custody has not been entirely within the government's control. They've decided to decertify the machines, which means they have to get all new ones or go back to, say, I don't know, Scantron or pencil and paper.
well, I
Pencil and paper worked for
Yeah, it works for France right now.
yeah.
Again, I see this stuff, and this is what we talked about early, that it would have been infinitely better for them to just do the friggin' audits that the hardcore MAGA folks wanted, right?
Well,
It
yeah,
would
there's
probably
nothing
have
to hide,
produced enough
right?
Data. It would probably have produced enough data to convince Craig and I either way, right?
Sure.
We didn't have anything that was proof that fraud was done, right? That's
Right.
the first thing. We had
I get into that
suspicions
battle with
based
my
on
cousin all the
statistical
time.
evidence, right?
Yeah, I get into this ballad with my cousin who just like basically throws the whole the mega MAGA crowd opinions on me. It's like, look, I'm not saying fraud definitely happened because I
Right.
haven't been shown the data that says that. All I'm
Right.
saying is that it's
The data-
suspicious to the point where we should investigate.
Right, exactly. So had
Like for next
had they
election,
done-
not the last one.
Had they done that, that would have been great. But you know what? We could easily solve all of these problems, and this is one of those things that you could always solve. You assign one ballot to one individual. It has a QR code on it that gets scanned and stores the
Right.
value. All of that gets uploaded to a server so that you can go back and check to make sure it properly counted your vote. you get a QR code that you can go use and scan with your phone or any digital device or friend who happens to have a phone. And that way everything is tracked, recorded, and automatically uploaded, and only one ballot per person. And now, all of a sudden, the whole entire thing goes away. Because if you don't have a person that's registered to a ballot, you can't do anything about it.
Well, that sounds mighty racist to me, and that you hate black people. So I don't know if we can ever have you on again with that kind of racist talk.
That's okay.
See,
That's okay.
So
My Sundays are pretty full anyways.
We broke this down on a couple different fronts before as well. That one of the main issues is privacy, and there's a way that you can get around that, because as it stands, the public information that is available when it comes to you voting is whether or not you voted. That has been proven in court to be something that is definitely public information. Every time it gets, every time someone tries to get their name taken off of that kind of registry, it's like you registered to vote, your name goes on that list, and whether or not you voted shows up.
Well, but it's very easy to do.
If the QR code only reflects whether or not you voted, then that is perfectly fine. If it reflects your actual vote, then that becomes a major privacy issue. It's a constitutional problem.
I disagree, right? So if a QR code
that's the way the Constitution's written.
If your QR code reflects a vote, but you don't have to submit any information to the system to do that, you just check the QR code, right?
Right.
That would actually not require that wouldn't do
what
anything.
Happens if someone else
to be entirely honest, we're actually getting into some kind of murky constitutional ground
QR
here.
Code, right?
Because the QR code in and of itself would be the confirmation of the vote, but the fact that that QR code actually contains greater information than just a yes or no opens it up to some really interesting interpretations. So, we're really... it's an interesting question, and it really does tread on some very fascinating constitutional grounds. And ask some questions that we actually do need to ask. Because it's a viable solution.
It would be a quick and easy
secret vote is the
solution.
problem. It's the reason that it's an issue. And again, if you walk out in public and say who you voted for, that's effective. That would be kind of like posting your QR code at that point if it reflected anything more than did you vote. And while for a lot of people that's not a problem, that comes down to one, a constitutional issue, so it's a legal problem, but two, a privacy issue. So imagine you're the only Republican in a school union up in, say, Chicago.
Right.
Like it literally does become a right to privacy issue for someone who's in an otherwise particularly hostile environment.
That's super easy to do. You just turn around and say that no.
Actually, we don't even. There's nothing that you even need to do. Actually, let me just actually interrupt the both of you on that.
You just turn around and say you're not allowed to pull it.
Well, no. Let me actually just break right in there directly with the way that many ballots are handled across the states right now. At some point, it's printed out, and you have the thing. Right. They give you a piece of paper to either cover it or do something with it. At some point, somebody could theoretically photograph it or video it or whatever. So
that's why you have a booth.
Exactly. Kind of. But there is that time between the booth and there if you don't cover it. So an easy enough way to do this would just be to add a QR code printer to every new machine that came out so that you could just integrate this feature. Now, if you are so silly as to show off your QR code, well, that's on you. But it could be implemented directly in the next election without even all that much modification.
That's kind of my point.
Of current systems.
I get what Craig is saying, that what happens if you're here, but that's easy. You just pass a law saying that nobody can take your QR code, right? That's a really easy thing.
Again, what if you leave? Keep in mind that I absolutely agree that as far as technically feasible things that are just so stupidly simple and implementable that we should just do it and see what happens.
Yeah, it'd be nothing to add an extra 1-inch square to the end of every ballot.
Right. And you don't even have to take it with you, right?
Yeah, and I can easily see these kind of issues showing up all over. Basically, in my opinion,
and I agree.
If you show up at a ballot booth, you should always have a paper option. I think that should be a federal law. Although I'd still have the problem with it at the state level, as with this voting, whatever the fuck law they.
This HR1 bullshit. I am so glad that shit got knocked down.
Okay, so it's dead.
It is.
Yes. Dunskies. Okay, good, because fuck that noise. That was really bad.
Yeah, no, that was
But it
that was
just
an attempt to
expands
destroy.
voting rights to so
Yeah,
many
it expands voting rights for the Democrat Party to control your shit from the federal level. Fuck
Okay,
off.
well, you earned your way back on the show. You're good.
That's
Like
all that matters.
that. So I could easily see like the QR thing. I think that's something that can be tried. I also
I mean,
see like
that is
instantly
actually a
being,
viable solution that
so
would be
if I
no
was
more of an infringement on your privacy than what currently exists. It would put
no, I
a
think that should
bigger
be
onus on you
yeah
to be more private, but that's on you. I mean,
right.
you
Well,
could
I
just as
mean,
soon
it
throw that
doesn't
in
though.
with
I
everything
think that
else
it
to
should
be.
be.
It doesn't
I think
though,
that
right?
will
Because
be something that should be nonpartisan, but I could also easily see whoever gets the balls to bring it up, the other party is going to bring up those constitutional issues that I was just talking about, and either through legitimate observation of the way that it would be implemented, or through a contrived circumstance from non-information that wasn't involved in the way the legislation was drafted in the first place. Either way, it's going to be brought up as an issue, and I think that some kind of argument articulating it such that there's a way to get around that as a problem without just saying, "Yeah, we know, but," would probably be the best way forward to have at least some chance of getting it passed.
and I think you're 100% right on that, right? I think I really do. But I also think that those are pretty easy arguments to come up with, right? And it's not
Sure.
like it's so stupid. So basically, that solution, right?
Like we have the tech,
It
you know?
doesn't require will Dominion voting machines and all this fancy shit. You could do it
Right.
with nothing more advanced than a standard Scantron,
Oh
right?
yeah, you could
A
do it with a
ballot ID
Scantron from
number.
2012.
Right. You can do this with a Scantron, a ballot ID number, and a record book, and
I
you're
mean, here's
done.
another thing. I
Right?
don't see like
And the
why
only reason for
why
your
not just give you a
QR
stack of
code is
cards?
for the individuals who are afraid or concerned that their vote won't be counted. You don't have
Here's
to
the
take the
thought, though.
QR code.
Steve, what if like just here's the 1990s approach to the same exact solution. Just put a stack of index cards next to the I voted stickers and have a guy there write down the serial number of your ballot and hand it to you.
Well, I think see
Oh,
that's why I
there you-
prefer the QR code is it's
Or
more
tear off a tab. Tear off a tab on the end, you know?
Well, that's
Like,
what
I-
I
Well,
was
this
thinking.
is
I agree
this is
about
a
it.
modern solution to the tear off
QR
a tab,
code,
but yeah.
the QR code is the tab, right?
How about this?
I totally agree. You could write
Steve,
down the ballot ID, but I wouldn't want you to
what-
be able to reference that directly.
Well, I was just starting off from that as a first principles solution
Yep.
there. But what if we just
Yep.
put the QR code on the tab and the ballot?
That's what I
get
was
it-
suggesting.
Give
That's
it, give it
that's what we're
ticket
both
stub.
suggesting,
Yeah, okay.
actually.
That was literally what I
Again,
said is that
Yeah,
that
like
it
a
has
tear off QR code
code.
tab. Like
and
just
a
put an
tear off
extra inch
QR
at
code.
the end of the ballot that
I'm just
it
putting
just
like a
prints that on
physical
and you
meaning
pull it
over
off.
here.
Or don't pull
So
it
the
off
reason
and
why
let
I'm
it go
putting-
in where it would be completely secure.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
So-
only you don't have to take it, right? That's how you
Yeah,
turn
leave
around
it
and do
on there.
If
It
you-
goes into the ballot
So-
box where it's completely secure. Take it with you, and then it's
reason-
the onus on you to
Right.
keep it secure.
The reason why I was putting a physical description on this to further, go through the motions on this.
But I
is if
mean,
you
that's
just start off by selling someone a QR code, the first thing you're going to do is turn around and say, well, not everybody has a phone. And this is the
Well,
same. This is just like Biden saying that African Americans can't operate computers, mind you.
yeah. You
But,
make
like-
a valid point there.
Absolutely.
But I'm just
All
saying
of that's
that, like,
true. In which
the point
case,
is going to be brought up.
in which case,
Yeah.
you make a QR code reader available at your public library, and all of those people
Right.
who don't have phones can not only go sit there and get their thing checked for free, but they also, at the same time, are immersed in American literature. And what better
Not only that, they
opportunity
can
is
hop on
that?
the computers and look at free porn. See, everybody wins. They're at everybody go to the library.
It's what the internet is for, after all.
Well, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
When I was poor as shit, I lived at the library, played Magic the Gathering at the library, browsed the internet at the library, did my job work at the library. I lived at the library.
But for real,
Colorado, man.
Oh,
library is your
Colorado,
friend.
the library at Longmont in Colorado was a fantastic place to be.
So
But
another
I was
thing,
there
by the
from
way,
10
that
a.m.
I
to
should
6
bring up-
p.m. every day.
So this is off topic, but like as I'm getting my ass ready for bed here, I just pulled the tab up again. Anybody who's kind of in the South area, there's a I think it's called Depression 5 on the Atlantic map at the NHC.
Oh, we're starting that season early, huh?
Yeah, we already had a couple of things, so this will be another thing. Here, just to remind you, here's a paste of the link. So on Windy, I've been just monitoring the pressure map and then the predictions. So ECMWF presently says that will. Oh, is that agreeing more with? Oh shit! So that one's also okay. This is GFS. Good. So GFS, which is the lower resolution but kind of more economical to run simulation package, basically says that Depression 5 is going to pass through north central Florida. And then, and that would happen. Let me just go ahead and scoot this along and see it again. That would pass right over Gainesville around noon on Wednesday next week. So if I switch over to ECMWF, so this is the higher resolution simulation package. That basically says it'll run into the those outlying islands, then into the DR, and then up into the outer Bahamas, and kind of scoop back out into the Atlantic. Basically, it would peter out in the islands, and there wouldn't be as much of a big deal about it. So it could go either way, or over towards Europe, and do a little loop-de-loop halfway over there, and then come back and take out Maine. Who knows? Point being, those two different simulations show convergent behavior for the mean path as towards the United States, towards Florida, and it all depends on how it hits the islands there just north of Venezuela. But it is over South America right now, and it'll be via the ECMWF. It'll hit the islands Friday of late morning. So that'll be kind of like when it picks which direction. So basically, if you're in the southern states, southern-eastern states, now is the time to go and get water, batteries, non-perishable dry food, etc. So it's basically the same shit you get to prepare for a pandemic, if you will, minus all the extra PPE that comes with it.
Yeah, it's looking like
all
from
of
their
which
projections.
is very good. But I also have may I add to this? I have a much simpler solution. Why the fuck do you live in the southeast United States? Just go move someplace better.
Because Florida is way better than New York, and you're gonna come down here to die eventually anyway. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you're in New York. You really have no room to talk here.
My wife. What I really hope is so. Those of us who happen to be at a certain position in intellectual capacity have an unfortunate curse that we tend to be right all the time. That's not to say that we're never wrong. It's just that we're almost never wrong. Like I've got a dude at work, and he's like, I think I'm up to 8 times. I'm like, are you sure you're up to 8 times that I've been wrong? And that's for me being there for 24 months. So 8 times I've been wrong in 24 months that this guy can account for, while I'm saying I'm never wrong. Is how rarely I'm wrong on stuff here. My wife is hoping against hope that New York splits into multiple states, and
she's unfortunate.
Oh, bless her heart.
I know.
Bless her sweetheart.
It's a dream.
I hope so too.
It's
I
a
just
dream.
don't see it happening.
I mean, and it's really a shame because, as much as I shit on New York and as much as we all shit on New York, and I'm all for it, right? Because objective truth is all that matters. The area that I live in is absolutely gorgeous.
There's some really lovely countryside over there in New York. There really is. It's a shame that New York City is not entirely walled off and turned into a prison colony.
It is indeed a shame. It is indeed a shame. Because the area that I'm in, like, man, it's like a little slice of paradise. I've got a whole bunch of wilderness behind me. I got parks to the north, parks to the south. In the middle of winter, I'm 20 minutes away from skiing. I'm like, during the summer, I'm 30 minutes, 45 minutes away from trails. I can go fishing, I can go hiking, I can go biking, I can go do whatever I want. Every once in a while, my wife gets this stupid idea to go to the city, and literally because of all the other things that we have up here to go do, it takes me minimal effort to divert her to any one of 100 of beautiful, amazing options in the state of New York. I hope that she's correct, but I don't think so.
I should interject briefly here. So Icon is another of these packages, and it basically says that it'll take more or less the southerly route of GFS, but right around the south end of Cuba, it'll kind of peter out and get dispersed. So 2 out of 3, and they all have their own weights on this, so don't take it as integer separation here. But 2 out of 3 say that it'll go towards the south of DR and Cuba, and 1 of 3 says it'll run smack into DR and then get blown out across the Bahamas.
So maybe go and do a little bit of extra grocery shopping tomorrow and just get it out of the way early.
It won't hurt you. Yeah. Like, and the same kind of shit, wing of it's going to pass over by my girlfriend to the south there. So I'll probably end up telling her, hey, by the way, that thing that's going to be swinging by to the north of, far north of you, but to the north of you, not that far into the future, probably ought to get some water at home.
That's actually kind of a better end than mine. And besides, mine's about the Mayan civilization and climate change. So we'll just go into that one next time because it's...
Oh my god, that was retarded!
It isn't it, though? It's like, climate changes over time, and it affects population density.
Hold on, time out. They measured it by poop.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
They legitimately,
Yes,
they determined climate change by poop.
Wait.
Okay.
You mean that thing that
then we're absolutely going to close with this then, because it's perfect.
I am absolutely stunned that anybody turned around. This is... So we talked a long time ago about how they just fucking tag popular pop culture issues into like science papers, and that's why all this shit is linked to this stuff, even though it has nothing to do with whatever. This is a perfect example. Somebody was interested
except for in this case, they
studying human
actually
feces,
did it.
And then they sat there and they tried to tie it to fucking climate change. Ugh.
So yeah,
nobody
article-
back in the day was collecting their shit in regulated sample containers by which you could actually test these individual specimens.
Hold on now. I don't know if I can believe that.
They harvested it to grow plants. It's not like they got an actual... They didn't get a representative sample of the shit in the city. They got the runoff from whatever was left at the bottom of the barrel.
I know.
Like, the rest of it was
like I don't even know how they're gonna, considering climate is a 30-year trend, and most biological proxy records that we have of climate are like 100 to 150 year timescale compressions for an individual data point. All right, it's an average of that 100 to 150 years. I have no fucking idea how it is that they believe that they have distinct layers or quantities of poop to determine how much or how little individuals ate within the city, and then to tie that to climate. Like, this is a perfect example of statistics being a garbage in, garbage out methodology.
Oh, literally.
Look, Steve, you don't get it. You see layers of poop will fall down over time and form layers, and they have an accurate poop core record from the hundreds of thousands of feet of human shit that has been baking out in the sun, unlike, say, up in Alaska, where it just hangs out in the field.
Because shit from, like, 3,000 years ago, baking in a fucking Mayan civilization, right? They clearly collected idealist, fecal samples into jars and preserved it for the fucking scientists.
And no animal shat in the same area, mind you. None.
Bless those Incan scientists for preserving their information for future generations. Bless them.
Oh, good God. I mean, here's the thing, though, is there actually is an argument to be made, I guess, at this point, that maybe it was like there's San Francisco. Have they found any needles yet?
Oh, that's a very good question.
So, I mean, the whole premise is they're supposed to be looking at a specific... So it's a new technique that looks at some sort of organic molecule found in feces. They took it from the bottom of a nearby lake. This gets better, right? They took it from the bottom of a nearby lake, right? So they have a fucking organic compound taken from the bottom of a fucking lake. Then they sat there and they used the measurement of the compounds to estimate changes in population size overall for the area and examine how they align with information about climate variability and changes in vegetation drawn from
Now,
other biological and archaeological sources. This
I can see them
is
talking about measurement
confirmation
like,
bias. That's
I can
what
see
this
them
study
talking
is.
about like slowly changing things, like, you know, maybe they haven't ever used fertilizer in the area, so maybe they could look at, like, say, I don't know, the phosphorus content over time. But exactly what layer of sediment that gets routinely dug up and scraped and spread around, like, how much has the lake bed risen in all the time that they're talking about? Because normally that kind of activity takes
I don't
millions
know.
of years.
I don't know. They turned around, so they're looking at the area for some 3,300 years before present, right? And
That's not enough.
they're arguing that they're able to chart major population changes in the local area of this one lake, right? Happening 3,300 years. And then they're trying to identify shifts in settlement patterns. What people don't know is ancient cities and towns and villages were fucking built up and abandoned and recolonized all the fucking time for a whole host of reasons. The number one of which reason is fucking disease. They had no technology. These are Stone Age civilizations, right? Native American populations, when colonial settlers showed up, they were friggin' Stone Age civilizations. These are like pre-Stone Age civilizations that were trying to measure their poop and
they could
infer climate
cut rock
change.
really well. They could cut and stack rock pretty good. But, you know, everybody has their craft. You know, the Incans could fit rocks together that you can't even get a piece of paper in between. They're that good at honing rocks.
So I love this sentence. It says,
but that's that doesn't really.
This area was colonized 650 years before archaeological evidence confirms it. So maybe that's true, maybe it's not. And they continue to occupy the area until after the collapse in the Mayan population around 1000 AD, which could have been caused by a drought in the area or a massive amount of war. They don't really know, but they're able to tie it to climate change because they can fucking say that it is.
Well, yeah, maybe one, maybe the other. Who knows?
If they can't. Here's the thing: if they can't get it with the drought, it's probably both, but not tied to climate change. And here's the thing that they're going to try: if you can't prove a drought happened because of climate change, then you can only prove that there were migration pressures causing conflicts based on climate change.
No, you can't even prove that. You can't even prove that climate change had anything whatsoever to do with this. It doesn't matter if you can
prove it. It's going to be what's said because it's a non-falsifiable fucking religion.
I know.
That is kind of a thing, you know.
Why are you still up?
Me?
No, my wife. She's come downstairs for like the 7th time.
I mean, he could easily be talking to me.
Yeah, I was thinking he was talking to you because it's like it's not even 6 yet.
No. It's just it's like 2 a.m. and I'm okay to be up late, right? Like I only need 4 hours of sleep to be functional. But my wife, on the other hand, requires a good solid 8 to 10.
Well, that's kind of roughly the zone I'm in. I'm getting up at 5:30 and it's 2.
Why are you getting up at 5:30? What possibly could you be doing at 5:30?
Learning how to be a human again, so that by 6 and 7 I can start actually doing things.
That's fair. Well,
what? You should not. You should get up after 6. So
I mean,
human
you should, but that would require going to bed at an earlier time, I think, which is kind of a non-starter now. So
I only get up at 6 something or other, 6:50, because I get paid to get up. That's the only reason. I advise you all to enjoy that method of self-actualization.
Oh yeah, no. I go to bed late, but I also get up late. I only need 6 hours, but
I can function on 4.
That's no fun.
6 is my normal.
Yeah, no, 6 is basically fine. 7 is
6 makes me feel good. Yeah.
And past that,
so I will.
Getting into...
Well, gentlemen, I am going to suddenly and unceremoniously drop out.
Yeah, no.
Have a good night, guys.
Unsuspiciously tempting you. Anyway, sleep tight.
Yeah, this is friggin' retarded.
But no, actually, that's actually a fun place to. Man, maybe I should say actually 3 more times. Actually. There, I said it like 17. All right. So I think that's a pretty good spot to just go ahead and wrap for the night and tell everybody thanks for being here and listening in. And sometimes they come a little late in the week. We're going to be doing them probably a little bit later during the summer because we're all a little bit busier with a couple of things. But no worries. We'll be here one way or the other. So you can look him up for what it's worth at Ratman720. You can find me, I'm Evan, at That Fake Guy Dan. You can find Craig at CraigBob99. On all of us are on most of the social media. And as ever, if you got any ideas, questions, comments, whatever, hit me up, hit Craig up. It'll certainly get through. You can try Steve, I'm making no promises, and he's probably going to agree with me that there's no promises you're going to hit him on.
Yeah, there's no promises to be made. I wish there was. However,
But get the info, get anything to us, and we'll actually make sure that any questions you got get through, and we'll relay any answers that we come up with. So, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Be safe out there, and well, again, it's another week that it was slightly less horrible than the week before, but not actually good. But in context, seems good. So enjoy it. Later.